Good afternoon and a warm welcome to all of you. This is Rakesh Rao, Executive Editor of Indian Textile Journal, welcoming you all to ITJ's Textile Business E-Conference 2021. As you are aware, the Indian textile industry is one of the oldest industries in the world and plays a big role in the Indian economy. It is the second largest employment generating sector after agriculture and accounts for 4% of India's GDP. With transformation, when transformation is a mantra and information is power, by providing business relevant timely information for last 131 years, the Indian Textile Journal has been empowering business players and aiding the growth of Indian textile industry. Established in 1890, the Indian Textile Journal has been serving the Indian as well as the Asian textile industry with diligence and determination for well over a century. Acclaimed as India's leading and oldest textile magazine, this publication of ASAP Info Global Group is read every month by decision makers from the industry. From fiber, yarn, technical and non-woven textiles to spinning, weaving, processing, dyeing and finishing, knitting and garmenting. ITJ's editorial content spans the gamut of materials processes vital to the industry. Indeed, its sustained focus on technology and trade through coverage of new products and processes, technological breakthroughs, and trade fair information has proved invaluable to sector in today's competitive environment. What's more, the magazine has the robust digital presence. Its website, indiantextilejournal.com, is preferred source of news and information. With print and online combined, ITJ has monthly readership of over 1 lakh, with 80% of readers being senior management. Even during COVID period, ITJ provided uninterrupted services to the industry with articles, news, views, video interviews, and much more on its website. Going forward, ITJ remains committed to catalyze growth in the sector and nation with valuable information, insights, and analysis. Testimony to this commitment is ITJ's annual 2021 edition, featuring top performers of Indian textile industry. For the first time in India's textile publication space, the edition presents India's top 50 textile companies by adopting systemic, unbiased, and analytical process. Later today, we will see the virtual launch of ITJ Annual 2021. To get your copies of this mega edition, contact us on subscriber@asapinfoglobal.com or call us on 810-860-3000. I repeat, you can call us on 810-860-3000. Coming back to our today's agenda, continuing its role as a facilitator, ITJ is today's hosting the Business E-Conference with an aim to provide a platform to all stakeholders to exchange ideas, collaborate, and draw the roadmap for the future. E-Conference comprising 2 panel discussions and addresses by key industry leaders will provide an insight into Indian textile industry and challenge and opportunities for its in a new world. Before we start the ball rolling, we would like to thank our association partners, the Textile Association of India, Indian Technical Textile Association, and Textile Manufacturers Association of India. As part of Vision's action plan for Indian textile industry, India is expected to touch 185 billion figure by the year 20,000 to 2024-25. While COVID-19 resulted in a dramatic slowdown in 2020, it also presents new opportunities for the Indian textile industry as the global majors look to diversify sourcing away from China. But is India ready to grab this opportunity? And how India can recover lost ground. To know this and more, let's tune into our first panel discussion titled Reinvigorating Indian Textile Industry to be a Global Hub. I would now request Mr. Prashant Agarwal, co-founder and joint managing director of Wazir Advisors, to moderate this discussion. Mr. Agarwal has an extensive experience of 26 years in various corporate strategy, business creation, diversification, and performance enhancement assignments in textile, apparel, and retail sector for Indian and international clients. He has served as a guest faculty at IIT Delhi, IIM Ahmedabad, and has been on the boards of some of the most successful textile parks in India. Over to Mr. Agarwal for this panel discussion.
Thanks, Rakeshji, and thanks, Indian Textile Journal. I know everybody reads it, and thanks for giving us an opportunity to be part of this important event. And with me, there are the topic titled as Reinvigorating Indian Textile Industry to be a Global Hub is a very relevant topic. I think it is the time for us that India gets the position it deserves. Definitely industry has to work together to make it happen. May I request my fellow panelists also to have their video on, and so that I can introduce, and I will introduce the topic also, so that, because see, this is an important topic, and thanks Rakesh Raoji to let me have such a good panel to get a global view of the things. With me on the panel are first Mr. Ashok Juneja, who is President Textile Association of India. Mr. Juneja has been in textile machinery marketing for so long that he understands this industry globally, that which country is doing what and how industry is moving. Then we have with Mr. Gurudas Aras, Director AT Enterprises Private Limited. While if you are in this industry, you need to know AT. Otherwise, you can't be in this industry, because they are the players who are there across value chain. They are one of the best principles, and they keep connected in terms, not only in terms of machinery, but how the industry is moving. They have regular papers coming. So, and Aras has been leading this for so long. Aras has been a name in industry, so it doesn't need any further introduction. Then Dr. Jairam Vadraj, Managing Director, LG Equipments Limited. And I was talking to Dr. Vadraj, and he was saying that this industry, because they are a global player, they have global offices, so and they are into lot of segments beyond textiles also. So as a company, as an industry, they're really doing good. Welcome, Dr. Vadraj. And then Mr. Rahul Mehta, Chief Mentor, Clothing Manufacturer Association of India. I don't know whether they have written it right, because he is the chief mentor of this industry, not only CMAI, and he has been across value chain. While people will correlate more with brands and garment industry, but he understands this whole value chain so closely from a domestic international perspective, that he is able to give his viewpoints and to the point viewpoints on most of the value chain of the industry. With the initial introduction of my panelists, let me go back to the theme of this session, where we are talking about how we can reinvigorate Indian textile industry to be a global hub. Whenever we talk about this, India's export has been stagnant for last 4-5 years to 37-38 billion dollar. Indian domestic market has been growing, but we always see that India is far second to China, because of its large population, because of its domestic market and its right cost of manpower and availability of manpower, that India can be a global player in this segment. But I think we are missing the bus somewhere. And as far as in this times when China is vacating a space, countries like Bangladesh, Vietnam, Cambodia, they have taken a front seat, and they are actually riding the bus in a much better manner. Bangladesh has reached to almost $40 billion exports. Vietnam is around $38 billion exports. Cambodia is around $15 billion. So all countries are growing faster than India. So we need to understand why. So many times the question is asked, what needs to be done to make it happen? The answers are very simple, but to really make these answers happen, there is a lot of groundwork which needs to be done. Answers like what China does: they have a scale, they have product variety, they have right product cost, and they can give right service. So if you have all these four, you can be the major player, because buyers are looking for all this. But when we talk about scale, I don't say that India has to, most of the players have to have the capacities kind the way China has. But most of the people have to have. India can have. So the way China has bigger capacities, even few players, the anchors in India can have those capacities. There can be larger MSME players, larger number of MSME players who can be the supplier to these bigger players as anchors who will do the marketing. So I think collaboration is the key for India to make it happen to the position what they deserve. And what kind of collaboration, trust which needs to happen between the whole supply chain is the key to India to achieve what it deserves. So while government has come out with some schemes like PLI, Mega Park, and I think with all this, it is time that India should have to maintain its differentiated positioning, which can be through maybe more flexibility, maybe de-risking the supply chain. We have to take advantage of uh, the whole new shift which is happening, whether it is because of China, whether it is because of some cotton being banned from China, whether it is in terms of buyers wanting to look towards an option of China, or looking towards developing a part of supply chain in India. So with these, I think now I'll move to my panelists with some of the questions to see that we get all these answers and crisp answers to really define the way forward. Let me go. Rakesh, do we have a poll question, or I straight away go to my first question here?
We have one poll question, Mr.
Okay.
Agarwal.
How was the budget in 2021 for textile industry? A very important question, because from government side they have come out with flagship scheme, and two flagship scheme with a large budget outlay. I hope they will structure it right to make it happen for India. So it's good. So what we are saying, there is nobody saying bad or very bad, and it's more than good. Good and very good is almost 70%. So it's a very good indication to start with. Thanks, Rakeshji. And now let me have the on the basis of what reviews which have come from the poll question. My first question comes: how do you view the budget? What are the major hits and misses? To answer this question, let me straight away first go to Rahul Bhai, so that we come from a brand and garmenting side and then come to the parts of supply chain. Rahul Bhai, how do you rate budget?
Thanks, Prashant. Normally, in webinars like these, the moderator is supposed to be quite ignorant and leave it to the panelists to give the expert opinions. The problem with having Prashant as the moderator is he answers most of the questions himself before I get even a chance to talk. But I think very correctly, Prashant has sort of summarized the hits, at least, of the budget. And that, of course, is the two schemes that have been announced. One being the Mega Park and the other being the PLI. I think if the execution of these two schemes and the fine prints of these two schemes live up to the expectations, I believe that these can be game changers for the Indian textile industry, especially the apparel sector. I think the government has hit the nail on the head by addressing some of the biggest weaknesses of the apparel industry. especially in the export sector. But as I said, the fine print of what the schemes entail, the execution, I think will actually determine whether it will achieve the goals that have been envisaged by the government. I think as far as the textile industry is concerned, the miss, if I may call it, is the 10% import duty that has been levied on the imports of cotton. Now, let me confess with all of you all that my initial response, including the press release from CMAI, was that this is not likely to impact the industry to a great extent, largely because we are not really very huge importers of cotton. So I was actually quite surprised as to why this step was necessary. But I think having thought about the matter a little more in detail, what was feared is actually happening, and which is that the domestic procurement of cotton, using the increase of imported cotton prices as an excuse, the domestic producers have also increased their prices, number one. Number two, even the yarn prices of MMF, which has nothing to do with the imports of cotton, even those in sympathy, if you might call it that way, have increased their prices. And therefore, there is a kind of a cascading effect, and prices have gone up. Adding to the point of prices having gone up is the instability, the inconsistency of price increases that's been seen in the market of late. So I think this was a avoidable step. I don't think the government will earn too much of revenue. They might get some brownie points with the current farmer agitations going on. But other than that, I don't see any positives of this particular move, but there can be a fair amount of negatives. So very broadly speaking, as far as the textile industry is concerned, I see these as the hits and the misses. But having said that, let me say that this has been one of the most far-reaching and perhaps the boldest budget that any government has come out in recent times. So I'm looking forward to an air of positivity and economic revival in the coming months. Thanks, Prashant.
Thanks, Rahul. Thanks, Rahul bhai. I think you summed up really well. Let me have another view from Mr. Ashok Junaja in terms of, because from machinery perspective, how do you see this budget?
Thanks, Prashant. As Rahul bhai said, no doubt the focus of the budget is to improving the competitiveness of the textile industry. And I think there is not much anything to criticize the budget. So we can say budget, as the poll has also say, it is average or it is good, all these things. But as Rahul bhai said, that lot of promises are being made, whether it is a mega park, whether it is a nylon duty has come down, or whether it is inverted. Definitely there was a lot of demand from the industry also, whether inverted duty structure to be done properly, although they have given the promise, and most probably it will be done also. So, but only thing is how these promises will be implemented, how these promises will be executed, and it will take time. So we have to see what are the effect will come on this budget. And same thing what Rahul bhai earlier said, this 10% basic duty on the cotton. I don't know whether the farmer will be happy or not happy, whether it will give any benefit to farmer, because it is on the, we are only importing very few bales or very few cotton, that also long staple cotton, which is not available in the India. Definitely it is being now started to get it from the Rajasthan or MP, but definitely it will make an impact. The cotton prices may boost, may go high, and definitely the impact will come, and it may impact the export of the garment also. As Prashant, you said initially, I belongs to mainly, I worked in the spinning industry. I think in budget, I don't know whether it is not a proper representation or proper coordination. I think we are not addressing anything regarding the textile engineering industry in the budget. Okay. At this moment, textile engineering industry, okay, it is not so big like apparel industry and all this thing. At this moment, it is around 15,000 crore rupees of, we have the domestic market. And out of that, around 60 or more than 60%, we are importing the machine from out of, from other countries. So being this textile engineering industry, it comes under the heavy engineering industry. So I don't know whether proper coordination is there or proper representation is not there. I think since so many this, we are not looking anything in this textile engineering industry. It is being, anything is being done. There is a chance if we take care of this in textile engineering industry, I think we can become a self-dependent, and we can become even we can become a big exporter of the textile machinery to other country also. We can become a spare parts supplier hub also. So this is one of the myths, but according to me, being in this industry, I think that is there. And secondly, okay, I am not touching the point what Rahul Bhai has already mentioned. I think we have in the budget, we have touched about clean air and renewable energy. But I think we have, time has come, we have to touch on the wastewater and water management also. Because being a textile and apparel industry, I think a lot of, being a polluted industry and a lot of water comes out and all these things. I think there should be something we have to look into. And because a few days back, I was reading some articles and all the, more than 100 kiloliters per day water is coming from the textile and apparel industry. So I think we have to look into that aspect also. This has something has to be touched on this also. These are the views from my side. Thank you.
Thanks, Juneja ji. And I would say the point that you were talking about textile machinery, as far as I know, textile ministry is also working in coordination with machinery manufacturing ministry, where they are working to create a mega machinery manufacturing park where all players globally will be part of it. I think it's a work in progress, but it's an important point for Indian industry or investment to grow, that most of the investment happens in India, and it becomes easier for service as well as it gives a lot of comfort for investment. Thanks, Juneja ji. And with this, let me ask this question to first Dr. Varadaraj. What do you think this budget will boost machinery manufacturing and supply of these equipments? How do you see budget in that perspective?
Well, first of all, I thank you for having me on this panel, and I feel a little inadequate because all the persons in this panel are veterans and experts on textiles, and my association with textile is only as a supplier to the industry. And of course, my hometown is Coimbatore, which is quite centric to textiles. So that's my claim to fame. In terms of being a subject matter, I kind of feel humbled in the presence of all of you. So if my answers are not anywhere near the standards of your expectations, I request you to. As far as the budget is concerned, I think there have been a few aspects of the budget very specific to textiles, both positive and negative. The positive in terms of the textile parks, and negative in terms of the duties that have been come in. But, you know, these are all long-term. The consequences are all very difficult to predict. So I would not like to react to them. But if you step back and look at the budget, the whole idea was to promote investment. And I think the budgetary directions have been very strongly in that line. And if you distill it down to textile, if once the investment cycle starts, the employment cycles restart, consumption goes up, and therefore textiles will be one of the leading beneficiaries of that cycle. And therefore, investments are going to happen in the textile industry. And we are beginning to see that already happening. So which is a very positive thing. But more than the budget, I find the budget in our country sometimes a very peculiar thing. I think we are probably the only country in the world that gets glued into the finance minister's speech once a year, trying to figure out whether all of our lives can be transformed in just one statement or one set of budget. I don't think life can happen that way. I think we need to take a longer term view. But this government is progressively making a lot of fundamental transformations in our laws, right? And if you step back and view those, they have some significant impact that cuts across all industries, whether it's the labor reform, taxation reforms. These are significant ones. And I think at one point you will find all of them kind of funneling into a situation where the basis or the competitive basis of setting up industry and running them is going to be far better. And this is my expectation.
Thanks, Dr. Vadraj. And I think you rightly said, it's not about textile industry as a direct impact, but because of a lot of policy decisions are taken, it cut across the industry. So it's a progressive budget, which is encouraging people to invest big. And now, will Indian industry invest that big? Is time we have to see in times to come. Mr. Aras, what is your opinion? Will it really boost investment in textile machinery industry, this budget, or not only investment from taking machines from outside, but also machinery manufacturer investing within India? Will it boost both?
Thank you, Prashant, and thanks to ITJ for getting me on this very renowned panel. First of all, let me quickly talk about the budget. Leaving aside textile industry as a citizen of India, I think it's a very bold budget, and giving the constraints which finance minister had in front of it, I think it is really a very visionary and growth-oriented budget. What I really liked about is the big infra push and the health investments which government has outlined. I think that's really going to change the direction of the country. Now, when I say infra push, I'm pretty sure it will come to textile also, because once the roads or the logistics improves, obviously the time to ship is faster. Our industry is also going to get benefited because of this. Similarly, in health also, there are a lot of textile items used. So in a way, indirectly, we'll get benefited by these two major initiatives taken by the government. Now, coming back to textile, I think the Mega Investment Park, or Mitra, what is called, scheme, I think the intention is very clear. The 7 textile mega parks which are going to come, it looks like that the government wants to create some global champions in exports. And, it will really help industry achieve the size and the scale to become globally competitive, which has always been missing. We always used to say that China has a scale, we don't have a scale. I think now is a red carpet for you to create a scale. And I think that's going to immensely benefit textile industry. We will have a much stronger footprint in the world market. Indirectly, textile machinery industry will get benefited, because if one has to invest into capital machinery, obviously, I think people on the textile machinery or even other industrial equipment will get immensely benefited. Second one I really liked about the budget as far as textile is concerned is about bringing nylon value chain at par with polyester. I think the intention of government is very clear that there has to be a natural shift from cotton to synthetics, because if you see the global market, the larger basket of products are always synthetic based or blends. These are not cotton, and therefore India has been always missing this big market. I think by bringing nylon at par with polyester, I think as far as fiber is concerned, we are self-sufficient in the country. What was missing was the value chain capabilities in synthetics. I think now this is going to also help a lot. Obviously, it will help textile machinery people also, because you can't produce anything without the machinery. Now, one small minor change, I think most of the people in textile industry have missed it, is about a small labor reform which the finance minister announced about allowing the women to work in the night shifts. I think some people have already done with special government permission from Tamil Nadu government, but now across India, government has cleared the intention that with proper protection, the industry can employ women in the third shift. I think as far as textile is concerned, for value added manufacturing like embroidery or similar things, where women will be very helpful. I think this is a bold step according to me, in garmenting also. Now there are two things. which I personally wanted, to be addressed. One was, I think Ashok Juneja has already touched upon that, nothing is done to address the issue of inverted duty structure, because this was really required in our value chain to bring, the tax structure uniformly across it. One thing, everybody was anticipating that the taxpayers will have more money left in the pocket to spend, because if they have more money to spend, it will also help in consumer spending. And if it helps in consumer spending, obviously they may buy textile. Although we call roti kapda makan is part of necessities, but I think we have seen in pandemic time that kapda is no more a necessity. It has become slowly a discretionary spending. But I'm pretty sure had the taxpayer left with some money in the pocket, it would have gone to buying more apparel, more bed sheets, more towels, all textile items. It would have obviously benefited my industry also.
Thanks, Mr. Aras. And I think all our panelists are giving thumbs up to the budget on a broader sense. While there are some misses, definitely this can be worked later on as part of continuous process. But it's majorly a thumbs up from all direction. With this, I think now the onus lies on industry to really act upon it. When we are saying onus lies on industry, let me go to Rahul Bhai again and ask him a question that, Rahul Bhai, we have seen with the global shifts happening, China is losing its global share and countries like Bangladesh, Vietnam, Cambodia are gaining. Why India is not able to gain that share? What do you think, where we are missing?
Well, I think, Prashant, you have heard this comment of mine earlier, and I had repeated this just a couple of weeks ago. A sentence that I'm quite fond of repeating, which is that India has never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity. And I think this is possibly one more situation where we may be missing an opportunity. One of the weaknesses or characteristics of our industry, and I'm referring only to the apparel industry at this point of time, not the broader textile industry, is that we sort of see certain global events taking place, and then we reassure ourselves and we become complacent to say, okay, we are going to get all the benefits out of this particular global event, without bothering to understand as to what is going to be required to change in our own operations if we want to actually take advantage of that global situation. The same thing, if you recollect, those of you all who have been in the industry for some years, what happened when the quotas were abolished. You see, everybody, every exporter sat back, bought a couple of more Mercedes and BMWs. Audis was not popular in those days. Mercedes was the most popular car. They bought that, they bought villas and farmhouses and said, oh, now the customers are going to line up in front of our offices because the quotas are gone. They forgot that the quotas had been abolished for the other countries also. And therefore, they forgot to make themselves competitive. And instead of competing till, as they were doing till date, of competing on their skills of obtaining more quotas, they should shift their skill sets to better productivity and better production or better marketing. I think the same thing is happening in today's times when there is a report of China moving out of the apparel industry. And I'm saying, using my words very carefully. People often say the world is moving out of China for apparel industry. I disagree. I think China is moving out of the apparel industry. And there's a huge difference, because what it actually is happening is that the Chinese government is dissuading or discouraging a bigger or a higher growth in the apparel industry, which is a labor intensive industry. And they want to shift to higher value additions, more technology oriented industries. Trust me, if the Chinese government wanted today, or even changes its approach tomorrow, that no, we want the same old share of the apparel industry, the rest of the countries would be wiped out. That's the kind of power that China has and can have. So let's understand one thing, it is the Chinese government which is wanting to move out. Now, why is it that India has not been able to take advantage? You see, it's not just that buyers want to shift their buying from China to India or Bangladesh or Cambodia, Vietnam, wherever. The main advantage that China had was their scale of production, which I think Gurudas ji mentioned, and I think Prashant, you also mentioned about this, that India and Indian factories just do not have that scale of production, which is commonplace in China, which is what Bangladesh and Vietnam and Cambodia, etc., have been able to set up in their countries. You cannot compete with a 10,000 machine factory of China with 50 job workers having 50 machines each spread all over the country, as is this standard situation in India. And this is exactly where we are losing out, and we will continue to lose out. When I say continue to lose out, I'm not saying that no business will come to India. Of course, some will come. But I mean, many buyers, for example, would prefer to buy a little more from their existing vendors in India rather than look out for another unknown country. So business will increase, that advantage will be there, but not to the extent that everybody was expecting or hoping for. So that's one limitation. The other limitation is our product base. The entire, I won't say entire, but at least 70 to 80% of our exports are in the cotton-based, and within the cotton-based products, it is within the low to mid-price casual wear. So actually, if you analyze and if you dissect the different segments of the global apparel trade, you will find that in the cotton casual wear low to mid price points, you will see that India has already got around 20 to 25% of the market, the global market share. So you're not going to get too much of additional market share in this particular segment. The only way to increase your market share is to broaden your product base, to get into uniforms, to get into specialty garments, to get into MMF-based garments, to get into performance garments. All these are the winter wear, for example. These are the product lines that you will have to get into if you want to take advantage of the production moving out of China. So this is two very important factors. The third factor, again connected with the industry, I think, is the use of technology. Now, again, I don't blame the Indian industry too much because we, as I said earlier, we just didn't have the scale to make use of the latest technology. Unfortunately, every innovation in technology has been towards labor saving and increased capacities. Whereas in India, the whole business model has been built on small industries spread out, small factories and small production units spread out all over the place. And individually, these factories are unable to use the latest technology. So when a buyer is looking for the latest technology being used in his vendor base, he finds that India is falling short. So these are the three important industry limitations why I feel that our advantage of the industry moving out of China or the other way around is not going to be that high. And finally, I would say one thing, that in spite of the very, very significant strides that the country has taken, the government has stepped in very, very creditably. But I think the ease of doing business and the ease of investment is still far short of what is expected and possibly what is available in some of the other countries. So it's going to take time by which we would be able to get some significant advantage out of the industry moving out of China. I personally feel that a sensible and an equitable FTA with some of the global giants like EU, US, etc., will give far more opportunities for the Indian apparel industry to grow sort of significantly rather than the industry moving out of China.
Thanks, Rahul Bhai. I think you have given a really expanded answer and which actually cover the key points. When one Rahul Bhai, if I sum up, we said key manufacturing excellence is the key. You have to look within instead of always trying to find answers from outside. You have to expand your product base. You have to actually, the third answer which he gave is that you have to expand your technology base. I would like to expand on this further because all my other three panelists are really expert in technology and understand how technology is being applied globally in this sector. So I would like to move first to Mr. Aras.
Prashant, can I just interrupt for a second?
Sure.
Since all the other panelists are technology manufacturers or machinery
Right.
I have always held a view, or rather a complaint against the technology creators, that everybody is concerned about bringing in or offering the latest technology. Should that focus change to offering the most appropriate technology rather than the latest technology, especially in a developing country like India? I was hoping that if some of them could address this issue, it might add to the interest of the discussion. Sorry, Prashant.
So I think now the question has become two parts. One is why the technology, where do we stand in terms of technology adoption? Second is why, because India has a lot of MSMEs also, you don't have to only cater to players of larger scale. Do you have the appropriate technology for others to get adopted? So this is how it has become. So let me first go to Aras, and then I would like to take other two panelists' view also on this. Aras.
Yeah, very interesting question. Close to my heart because I would really like to address few of these issues. Number one, if you have compare India, Bangladesh, Vietnam on the same scale, I would say India is quite strong in spinning. It's very modern, and therefore India enjoys roughly 25% plus market share in yarn. However, India misses the opportunity of value addition after yarn, and we know who are the culprits. We are still not that up to date in our state of the art technologies. We are missing totally in weaving to some extent, but largely in finishing. And your real value addition happens in finishing, where India misses the boat completely. Now, if you ask me compare on a comparative scale, where does Vietnam stand? Where does Bangladesh stand? Now, let me first come to our immediate neighbor, Bangladesh. Bangladesh has systematically started from garment and come back. They have an advantage. They didn't have a baggage of older industry. Therefore, they could build absolutely new finishing plants. And if you see some of the plants, I'm sure, Prashant, you would have seen yourself visiting Bangladesh. Many of these plants are far, far better than India. And therefore, the kind of finishes Bangladesh gives, whether it's in denim, whether it's in knits, where they are very strong, India can't beat, honestly. So finishing is the real pain area. Efforts are being done now by somehow encouraging investments in finishing. Weaving also is the same case because 70% of our fabric production comes out of power loom still. So with power loom fabric, you can't compete globally. Now let's come back to Vietnam. It's very interesting if you see the data. 70% plus of fabric requirement of Vietnam come from abroad, and that too mainly from China. Therefore, Vietnam has an advantage of already getting a very good quality fabrics from China. So what they have done, they have built extremely good finishing capacities in last few years and garmenting also. And I have personally seen when I visited Vietnam also that the automation absorption in the processes is much faster than in India. And like garments, Vietnam has an advantage, although their cost is higher than India. Still, advantage is that they have automation process and they are faster to deliver. A lot of things, logistics, a lot of things add to this, and therefore, nobody can challenge the advantage which Vietnam has got, and we are seeing clearly the advantage of parts shifting from China, mainly going to Vietnam. Secondly, Vietnam's basket is they are investing both in synthetics as well as in cotton. It's very interesting. They are not leaving any area unturned. As far as India is concerned, India has an advantage, as Rahul Bhai has said, as far as FTAs are concerned. Vietnam has got two biggest FTAs they got in the pockets. Number one is with European Union, which is called EVFTA, that is Europe-Vietnam FTA. Next 5 years, the goods exported by China, by Vietnam will have zero duty. India is yet to sign the FTA with Europe, with EU. Secondly, they are part of RCEP, as you know. Now, we are not still part of RCEP. There's a debate going on. So RCEP will give a big benefit for procurement of raw materials and fabrics, as well as using the markets and bigger countries like Japan, Australia, China are part of RCEP, Thailand. So India is left only with what is remaining balance, and I think our internal textile value chain is really fractured right now. So we'll have to focus internally. I personally believe we have to do a catch-up game in technology. We have to really, have as much as automation as possible, but which is reasonable, not too much, because employment is a big issue. Secondly, digitization is a must. And thirdly, I'll touch upon again the topic of, what Rahul Bhai raised the question. It's a very valid question. State-of-the-art technologies may not be, good for the country for all the segments. So, as Mr. Juneja has already said, more than 40% of the requirement comes from abroad, and these equipments mainly come from Europe. So they're very expensive, Europe and Japan. We are not manufacturing looms, shuttleless looms. We are not manufacturing simple garmenting machines in India. We are not manufacturing many of the finishing machines in India. If we encourage manufacturing locally, we can definitely bring right technology at right price. China, I must touch upon one topic, point that, China's one of the success factors also has been their domestic machinery making industry. China doesn't have to invest so heavily in capital machinery importing from Europe. They have their own industry. Whereas in India, still our dependence on imports is extremely high. And therefore, right from beginning, our capital cost is higher, our interest percentages are higher. So obviously, we start losing the game bit by bit. So this is a very valid point. So if we want to really compete globally with Vietnam, Bangladesh, and Indonesia also is part of it, then I think first of all, we have to bring it down our cost. China is successful simply because they could give the goods at reasonable price and consistent quality. These two things are very important: consistent quality and reasonable price. And I think we have to go long way to reach the two targets. And therefore, technology will definitely play a part of the role. And I think now, if you see the way government is encouraging investments in technology and modernization of the industry in the weaker sectors, I think it's a matter of time that India will do a catch-up game.
Fine. I think Mr. Aras has answered. I think to Rahul by your question, he's saying that the more adoption of indigenous technology, where you can restructure your cost and supply at the right cost, because globally players make keeping global market in mind, but not the domestic market in mind. So there is a big gap. Dr. Vadraj, what is your viewpoint? So one is what Aras said, that the technology levels at finishing, weaving, but I think when you say technology, it's also to do with kind of automations, the kind of analytics which is done to make decisions faster, design and product development. How is India adopting to that?
I'll step back a little bit. First of all, I want to appreciate Mr. Mehta's observation. I think they're very profound and deep and resonate with a lot of my beliefs. I think fundamentally we need, what is the opportunity? The opportunity is huge, right? When you look at the global opportunity, there are so many estimates of the size of the global textile market. One, if you take $1 trillion is the size of the global textile market, and India is about 100 billion. You really need to have fundamental aspiration to build a global business, right? The architecture of a global business is very different from an architecture of an Indian business. You need to look at it and say, what is it that you need to do? And yes, there are limitations, there are challenges, but I think in most instances, it is a constraint of aspiration rather than constraint of resources. I'm exaggerating just to get my point across, but I think it is there. We are limited by our aspiration, right? And for me, if I look at the textile industry, and I kind of observe it from a distance as a supplier, and then also by virtue of my presence in my hometown, there is a lot of similarity between the textile industry and the IT industry, right? At one level, right? Both of them are price play. We are looking at selling products, and excuse me for sounding a little derogatory, but that's not my intention. We are there to sell cheap Indians, right? Both industries rely on that fundamental foundation. Our factor costs are low and we are trying to sell. Then why is it that IT industry succeeded, and why is it that the textile industry has not as succeeded as well, right? Both of them, the foundations are the same. The two differences are, one, you are looking at blue collar in textiles leveraging. In IT, it is the white collar leverage. The second aspect is the capital. Now, when you're talking about how to build a competitive industry, whether it's textiles in this particular instance, you need to have a larger game plan. So if you look at IT industry, you had one, private equity, you had people who are willing to invest and allow what I call as money that give them a lot of stamina to build the business, right? Now, if you're able to architecture that kind of capital financial intermediation with the strategic intent to grow the business globally, it is possible to do it, right? Now, yes, the government has to play a role, but I don't think you need to rely on it and say, play the victim's role. There are opportunities for you to imagine and architect a business in textiles, which is global in scale. And this will give you the ability to, Mr. Mehta's point, to move up on your value chain and integrate forward. I mean, if you're going to be limited by what you're saying, if you're a big fish in a small pond, that's what you will remain. I mean, I don't think you can even talk about the large ponds and the opportunities there. So I think a big part of the problem is internal in terms of shaping your aspiration and architecting your company. And I think if we are able to do that, I think we will have significant global players in textile in India. And so I think it is just a matter of us making it happen rather than government or anything.
Thanks, Dr. Vardraj. And I think important point, very important point where everybody should take note of, that when you put up a unit, are you talking about being a global player, or you are talking about a local player? The moment you start thinking differently, I think the investment in people, skill, training, technology, manufacturing excellence all gets aligned, because when you are a global player, you have to act globally the way global players are acting. I think very important point. Thanks, Dr. Vardraj. Mr. Juneja, I think we have got a very good view. Can have one quick view from your side in terms of technology adoption. Is what they are saying is the key, or you have any other point that you would like to highlight?
I think, Prashant, what you are saying, I think crunch of all the discussion, what Rahul Bhai has said, and I think we have to be competitive, cost competitive. Whether we have to be cost competitive through productivity, whether through technology, whether it is ultimately at the end of the day, you have to be competitive. Then only you will be able to survive. Whether you do manufacturing excellence, we have consistent quality, you have to do whatsoever, maybe you have to competitive. But definitely now time is changing. I know when in 96, 97, I started selling the auto doffer in the market. The mindset was such that nobody was accepting to have an auto doffer in the ring frame. And today, 99% of the ring frames are coming with auto doffer. Okay, that time, what people were saying, you are selling at 1500, 1600 per spindle, but how many manpower we are saving? Only two team of a doffer and all these things, 16, but it should be 500, 600 rupees per spindle. But slowly, when we go ahead, we have educated this is not the only cost what you are saving directly from the labor. you are saving indirectly also so many things. So that is also, we have to adopt the technology. Definitely, initially investment will be high, your cost will be high, but definitely your return will be there. But definitely, I am not saying in this we have to adopt the technology. That also we have to see at what cost. But Rahul Bhai has said at what cost we have to see. If we are doing something, but definitely we have to see at what cost we are doing. But definitely this digitalization, technology, and all these things, it pays, and it increase the productivity, it increase the efficiency, it increase the even I will say, initially I went to sell the autodopper. One of the owner told me, no, this way, we have to reduce the worker. मैं किसी के पेट पे लात नहीं मार सकता, up to that extent. So yeah, so that's some mindset and all these things. But definitely technology adoption will pay, but definitely we have to see at what cost. Definitely we have the capital cost high and all these things. Even spinning, what Arsab has said, in spinning today we are at par with the global level.
No, I think your point well taken, Junaid ji. I think all of you have summed up the importance, and I can tell in one line that if we have to grow, you can't grow without the right technology with you, because those days are gone that you can grow without the technology. Now, whether it is automation, adoption at different stages of the supply chain, all of this is needed. Let me now, I am a little bit short on time, so I'll do quick thing. One is, I want an answer from my panelist on post-COVID. What are the challenges and opportunities you see? So I'll start from Rahul Bhai in terms of market, and I would like a one-liner answer so that, I just what are the opportunities and challenges you see post-COVID? Rahul Bhai.
Well, I think the industry will have to get used to tighter controls. Controls in terms of inventory, controls in terms of expenditure, controls in terms of productivity, etc., etc. And secondly, it will have to get used to a changing consumer behavior, which is increasingly moving towards a lower consumption and a shift in the channels of consumption, which is going more on online rather than on offline. So the industry will have to change its business model to take care of these two changes in consumer behavior. And as I said, at the industry level, it will have to be gearing itself up for a tighter control on all aspects of its operations.
Absolutely. So again and again, it is coming. You have to think global and really go tight on manufacturing excellence, cost, and everything to be competitive. Dr. Vadraj. Yes.
I think companies in the textile industry, both manufacturers of equipment as well as products, have to hasten cautiously towards globalizing their business. Now, if one thing that the pandemic has taught us is over dependence on any one country it can grievously hurt you. And if you're diversified, you're that much better off.
Thanks. I think the important point I would also like to make here is that a lot of countries are thinking of reshoring, talking about reducing lead time. We are talking about sustainability. So all of these are post-COVID the opportunities where the opportunities is open to everyone. Who grabs it first will be the leader in these areas. Mr. Aras, your viewpoint.
I'll first talk about opportunity. I think as far as products are concerned, there are huge opportunities. One is medical textile, hygiene textile, man-made fiber-based, textile. Big product opportunities now once we are shifting to synthetic. Structural opportunities are far more important than for me because they are long-term effect. One is that biggest opportunity is to look at unexplored markets like China, Japan, Australia, Canada, Korea. Our market share in imports of these countries is less than 1 to 2%. We need to look at this market. Huge. Why only US and Europe? Because 60 to 70% of our exports of apparel go to US and EU. I mean, it's like a blue ocean and red ocean. There's a huge opportunity nobody wants to look at because it's very stringent. Quality requirements are very stringent for Japan. Secondly, I think US-China deteriorating relationship as well as, the Xinjiang cotton ban, I think it's a huge opportunity because we are a cotton-based country and, we need to really grab it faster. These are the opportunities. Challenges, I still look at the same challenges which were there, which are not going to change in a short while. Number one, costing. Second, consistency in quality. Third, fractured logistics, big problems. And fourth, most important, I think there has to be a paradigm shift in the minds, in the thinking of the entrepreneurs. They have to really think, be now manufacture locally, but go globally. And why government is now letting down infrastructure, architecture so well now. What does restrict yourself is only yourself, nothing else. I think India's best days are yet to come in textile, according to me.
Good, Mr. Aras, and I think a very important point where he said there are much more markets and people are accepting Indians everywhere. So let's explore newer markets, and definitely we need to expand in US and Europe, but explore newer markets. Mr. Juneja.
Yeah, was 1 minute. Sorry, 1 minute. I forgot one very important point. Another larger opportunity for India is import substitution.
Yeah, definitely.
India has huge imports in synthetics, huge imports, I think that's another opportunity.
Junaid, one line.
Only one line, because I think one line, but I was to say, I think Mr. Aras has said, we have to look for the substitute for the imported items.
Absolutely, you are right.
Yeah, number one. And number two, I think because supply chain is totally broken due to this, all these things, we must have the complete collaboration throughout the supply chain. And thirdly, I think we should have now should not keep a difference between the domestic quality and the export quality. We should keep a mindset that only one quality, whether it is a globally or whether it is a domestically. I think we should go with that mindset only.
Yeah, Mr. Juneja, I think important point, collaboration, which I said in the beginning also, and while I am constrained of time today, it's an important point because India can't grow the China way. Indian companies have to collaborate. Suppose garmenters, MSME and larger players to collaborate. So it's not only supply chain collaboration, it's a partnership between MSME and a larger player, which in totality gives a scale to the business, and then you become globally competitive. I think important point, in scarcity of time, I am not going ahead further on this. First, let me just straight away go. Rakesh ji, do you have a poll question? You said another poll question you have.
Yes, we have a second poll question.
So same what we were discussing in the post-COVID era, what would be the key challenges in making India a global textile powerhouse? So please do it quick so that we can see what are the answers. We are saying lack of economies of scale, modernization, high cost of inputs, unavailability of low cost of finance, free trade agreements. I think a very, very important point. The most important, FTAs, definitely they are game changer. High cost of input raw material, we see that there are a lot of opportunistic supply which is going on, and lack of economies of scale, maybe through collaboration model is what we can do. I think thanks, the inputs are coming relevant and to the point. With this, let me straight away, while the discussions are so interesting and I have so many more questions which are coming, but because I have further only 5 minutes time limit left. So an important question which I wanted to ask panelists was that while India has been thinking of making textile policy for last so many years, I hope it fructifies someday. But if the textile policy has to be made, what are your key suggestions which will be game changer for textile policy? Because your inputs can go in terms of recommendation to the government. So quickly, 1 or 2 points, whatever do you think are most important, you can come on that, Rahul bhai, to start with.
Number one, how to increase scale. Number two, how to increase your product base. And number three, how to get more people to focus on the domestic market rather than being stuck with the export market.
Thanks, Rahul bhai. I think you are in policy making because government has heard 2 of your first 2 points, scale and product mix. That's why they have come up with mega park and expanding synthetic base. Domestic market, they think it will grow automatically, but I think a big focus is needed. Dr. Vardraj, your viewpoint on that?
I think policies to increase scale is very important. Policies this is a capital investment intensive business. How can you promote capital investment in a business like this through policy is the second aspect. And the third is, I believe that there has to be a focus on creating a global enterprise in India.
global enterprise.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. RS.
First and foremost is that, we need a stable policy lasting for a longer time. For example, there has to be a clarity on structure and rates of export incentives, because otherwise, it will have a long bearing on the competitiveness of India's apparel exports. We can't tweak, with the policies in a short time. People can't then really predict, the competitive prices in the world market. Second, most important for textile machinery industry, I think it is always left out. India's textile growth cannot happen without growth of the Indian textile machinery and investments. Therefore, I personally really would wish a special policy for investments in textile machinery sector, bringing the joint ventures, or maybe some scheme like TUFs exclusively for textile machinery, which will encourage investments and for FDIs in the industry and make Indian industry, machinery industry competitive with the world, Europe, Japan. And secondly, India can become a hub of textile machinery, even exporting to nearby countries. So I think government has to seriously look at textile machinery segment, which it has not done so far.
Thanks, Aras. Mr. Juneja.
I think Rahul Bhai want to say something, I think.
Just after you.
Okay. No. Okay. As you wish. I think I endorse what Mr. Aras has said. That is some scheme like TUF to be there for the textile engineering industry, because when India can be an exporter of spinning machinery, why not India cannot become of exporter of weaving, processing, and the garmenting industry? I think we are spending huge money of importing the these machines and all these things. That is number one. Secondly, I think we maybe initially in the textile policy, we have to give some incentive for the import substitute item to be produced or to increase the scale. I think some incentive should be given initially to all these things. And thirdly, I think already government has taken an initiative, because we are cotton based, we are 70% cotton and 30% MMF. I think definitely when we are saying we have to increase to 300 billion US dollar and all these things, but we have to see what is the raw material available with us, whether the fiber is up to that quantity is available or cotton is available. So we have to keep the back study also accordingly, and then we have to make a proposal which sort of garment or which we use of fiber. So we should be self-reliant in the raw material also.
Sure,
Thank you.
Rahul Bhai, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was so intimidated by your pressure tactics that I forgot to add one thing. I think the policy should also encourage the creation of brand India and Indian brands.
Very good. I think very important. I think I would say, Rakesh ji and for ITJ, that there are very good inputs on policy terms should have come. So it should go as a policy paper from your side. Just to sum up in last 1 minute, I would say what panelists are emphasizing. There are policy initiatives, there are budget discussions where government has given a lot. They might keep doing more in terms of FTA and other things, but it's high time that industry should see themselves as a global player and then look within to see that whether it's productivity, manufacturing excellence, looking for newer markets, focusing on the right technology for themselves, really embarking on, because technology not only brings efficiency, but the service levels goes very high in terms of timely execution of things and timely response, which is the key for this industry. Any industry, this is not a manufacturing, it's a service industry. Fashion changes so fast. So I think we have to keep these things in mind. Opportunity is big for times to come for us. We need to work as India to really reboot ourselves, to see that how we shape up ourselves and get our position what we deserve in terms of recommendation for policy, scale, product variety, domestic market focus, brand, in India's brand going global, capital investment, global entrepreneurship, stable policy, I think, and textile machine manufacturing. These are some of the recommendations. With this, I really thank all my panelists to have really come up with to the point and right suggestions with the right policy inputs. With this, I think our time is done. So let me hand over to Mr. Rakesh Rao to take the proceedings further. Thanks.
Thank you, Prashant.
Thanks, Prashant.
Thank you, Mr. Agarwal, and all the panelists for sticking to time limits. And it was really a lively discussion and exploring all the areas of opportunities and, of course, the challenges that India faces. Moving ahead, I will to our next program on agenda. I will call upon Mr. Navdeep Singh Sodhi, Senior Partner with the Gherzi Textile Organization, Switzerland. Mr. Sodhi has over 3 decades of international experience in the textile industry. His expertise includes strategic management, policy, technology, and international trade and investment. Today, he will address the audience on the theme of opportunities for India in the global textile market in 2021 and beyond. Mr. Sodhi, stage is all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. First of all, I appreciate this opportunity, and I would like to congratulate Indian Textile Journal for organizing this discussion. Well, the topic of today's discussion is to, look at the landscape of opportunities for India in the global textile market 2021 and beyond. I have tried to, synthesize the message into, 5 takeaways. So therefore, I'll try to, stick to that. We'll look at some highlights, and then, typical to our approach, we have identified, some levers and pillars for the textile industry, the trends that are shaping our industry, and then finally, identify some opportunities that are relevant for the Indian textile industry. And when I talk about the Indian textile industry, it obviously covers the entire value chain. So there are, certain, key trends that are having a big impact on our industry. I'm sure we are all aware of that. So it's just a matter of, recapitulating some of these paradigm shifts in our industry, some of which have already been happening, but many of them, they have gathered pace as a result of, the prevailing situation, So the first key trend is that, our industry is undergoing an accelerated restructuring and consolidation. What do I mean? We have all been in the industry for at least, 3 decades, if not longer for some of us. We have seen, certain waves in our industry, and the last wave that happened was in the mid-90s in terms of, the opening of the barriers to trade and the implementation of the multi-fiber arrangement, So that led to a big shift in the industry from developed to developing countries, and we saw that, China consolidated that industry in the last 30 years, and other countries also came up. The second point is that, the advent of modern retail, this is having a big impact on our industry, especially in countries like India, where, we have experienced, traditional formats of retailing, So the advent of advanced retailings for domestic market is leading to consolidation in our industry, And this is in turn motivating the companies to acquire scale, because without, the economies of scale and to be able to feed the market, you are not competitive, This restructuring is also leading to, a greater importance for advanced materials. We can call it man-made fibers or whatever, but we are all talking about, modern, new, advanced materials, all leading into restructuring. Second is, this is the law of our industry, we call it a refugee industry, as, the income levels go up, the GDP levels go up, the per capita income goes, and then, again, the industry is looking for, newer pastures, So this is something which is inherent to our industry over the last 200 years. And now we are experiencing another wave that, the consolidation of industry in the Far East is again, leading to dispersal of the industry downstream. And therefore, the international buyers are very keen to diversify their sourcing. As my predecessors highlighted already, the pandemic has only accelerated that, and the apprehensions about putting all your eggs in one basket, this is leading to exposure, and therefore the buyers are keen to look at alternative sources. Number three, China is not going anywhere. China has benefited from the pandemic, and therefore it's wishful thinking that China will reduce its importance in textiles. Let's be clear about that. But what is happening is that the buyers want China+N, which means that China alone will not be able to fulfill all the requirements, especially downstream. In fact, China by design does not want the downstream. It is not going to have the resources to handle the downstream part, so they would like to disperse this elsewhere, and that is why China's motto is not made in China but made by China, wherever in the world it is. So whether it is Bangladesh or the CMLV countries or sub-Saharan Africa, buyers are looking at China+N. Number four is, these two pillars of digitalization and sustainability. They are having a huge impact on our industry. Let me talk about digitalization. It is, so permanently entrenched now in the supply side, that's in manufacturing, in supply chain, but also on the demand side. We have seen the impact of digital commerce. Amazon was a bookseller just a decade ago. We used to order books, from Amazon, but today Amazon is the biggest, seller of clothing and eventually even food in the US and many developed markets. So therefore, both on the supply side as well as the demand side, digitalization is here to stay. Sustainability, this was, one line in our annual reports in terms of CSR initiatives, but today, it has become an imperative and a part of the business model, whether it is environmental sustainability or social sustainability of the business, or working with communities and so on and so forth. So this has a big impact on our industry, so we need to align ourselves. Lastly, as a result of these changes, the business model that, the textile industry, whether in India or elsewhere, has to embark on is very different, So we really need to revisit the way we are running, operating our business, and, align our, selves to the new paradigm. So therefore, to take advantage of these opportunities and to mitigate the risks, what are the levers and the pillars before us? And again, we look at 5 levers in order to realize these opportunities, realize these, align ourselves with these paradigm shifts. First is that the textile value chain from fibers to fashion, involving all the actors, that needs to be taken into consideration. So if I'm a spinner, it's not enough only to buy cotton efficiently, but I also need to see how the cotton is grown, under what conditions is cotton grown, and eventually what happens to the final clothes made out of cotton. Second is alignment to UN Sustainable Development Goals. This is not the job of the government. Ultimately, it's the private sector that needs to achieve that. So therefore, our business needs to be aligned, and this is a lever on which we have to base and found our business. The third is that the nature of our business is not domestic. It is global. Of course, we have a domestic industry, but in order for India to grow, we need the export market. So therefore, our thinking and our reach has to be global, both in terms of supply as well as in demand. And then, we have to seriously look at, the changes that have been induced or accelerated as a result of COVID, because COVID is not going anywhere. There will be other things and so on. So we need to be prepared for these disruptive events more and more. Last but not the least, government policy is coming soon, where the priorities of the brands and the priorities of the fashion chain will be increasingly determined by government policy, and regulatory policies are in the making, which will necessitate how our business models are shaped and to what extent are we using, for example, sustainable materials and so on. This is really on the anvil. Finally, based on what we have learned, what are the specific opportunities? So we have identified 5 opportunities. I'm sure some of these in the previous session that I partially watched have already been alluded to. And so therefore, perhaps at the cost of repetition, I would like to elaborate on these 5 opportunities. First is the circular economy. I mean, the international brands, retailers, and consumers, there's a lot of push on that, and it is only going to accelerate. And the circular economy, how can Indian textile industry integrate with that or take advantage of that? So our idea is that India could become a global hub for using or processing recycled materials. Whether it is waste coming out of spinning or it's post-industrial or post-consumer waste, this is going to be a great opportunity. So it talks about regenerated fibers, and then it is aligned to spinning. I mean, India already has such a strong capability in spinning, especially short staple fiber spinning, and therefore, there's a lot of synergy in creating, making India a hub of this. Second point that I would like to again emphasize is, that it will be very difficult for us to achieve a global scale or to have a big share of the global, textile market if we only base ourselves on producing in-house. Indian companies will need to, look at, producing elsewhere and integrating into, the global value chain. So therefore, this also means outward FDI. I mean, we cannot keep on waiting for our own FTAs to be realized. It will take time. So in the meantime, the global buyers are not going to wait. I mean, the garment sourcing is highly influenced by, this preferential market access. So therefore, like some of our competitors, we will need to, look at, widening our production base and looking at outward FDI, and that will create linkages, between our fabric and yarn capability and garment assembly elsewhere. Point number 3, our export market share has been languishing, below 5%. It's only in a few product categories like cotton yarn and so on that we really have a leadership role. But otherwise, I mean, there is a great opportunity for us to scale up. So it wouldn't be very ambitious to say that from the current 4 to 5%, we should aim at least a 10% share of the $800 billion textile and apparel market. So this would, involve home textiles. It will involve apparels, and it would also involve, strengthening our capability in chemical fiber-based textiles. Point number 4, technical textiles. This is a known subject, so I'm not going to dwell more on that. I mean, this is also a gray area because, many companies, especially the big ones, are reluctant to look at it because, this requires, certain time to scale up. It requires patience. Gestation period is high, but especially in certain areas, we feel that, I mean, India could really build on cutting edge technologies and achieve scale. One is composites. Within the technical textile family, there are 3 categories. One is composite materials, then you have non-wovens, and number 3, you have the traditional technical textile. Now, out of all these, composites is the fastest growing and most sophisticated product segments. It's highly knowledge based, it's highly material based, and it's highly global in nature. So this is something that, with the knowledge base that we have, the technical expertise that we have, and of course our growth of the economy, this will create a big domestic demand as well for composites, whether it is for automotive or other applications. So these are some of the areas that, we think that there are opportunities for the Indian textile industry. My good friend Gurudat Aras, he mentioned about textile machinery industry. I mean, this is often ignored in our discussion, but if we look at the historical evolution of our industry, the textile machinery industry has always been adjacent to where textiles are produced, and that is the lesson our competitors they learned in their early days. I mean, the global textile machinery industry is about $30 billion. I was just refreshing my notes on TMMA policy paper that we had prepared a decade ago, that the Indian textile machinery industry, I mean, the demand side is worth about $2 billion, out of which about 50 to 60% has to be still imported. So therefore, there is a great opportunity for India to have a step change to be a global hub for textile machinery industry also. And in this case, we need to look at all the segments, whether it is fabric forming or it's dyeing and finishing. And digital system, digitalization is going to be so vital. We are not going to be dependent on just the mechanical or the electrical part of the machine, but also the digital systems where India already has a huge technical know-how, that needs to be leveraged here. Water is going to be the big battle where the textile industry's challenges will lie. If I'm asked to just mention one challenge for our industry in future, I mean, my answer would be water and nothing else. So can we invest in water-based technologies, how to reduce water consumption, how to improve our capability to treat wastewater and so on. So therefore, we feel that the great opportunity for India is to become an international hub for the textile machinery industry, because as the textile industry spreads around the globe, India should become, the source of choice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sodhi, for your good informative presentation, and also enlightening the audience about global trends and how India can capitalize on these trends. So moving ahead, we can go to our next program on agenda. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sodhi, once again for your time. And so we are going to start our second panel discussion. So it has been known for a long time the importance of technical textile, but ever since COVID pandemic has started spreading to the world, a discussion around technical textile has gained prominence. Similarly, while man-made fiber, similarly, the man-made fiber-based products have been ruling the global markets. It is only recently that the government of India has started realigning its policy push to give a boost to the MMF value chain. This brings us to our second panel of discussion titled, Can India Take the Lead in Man-Made Fiber and Tech Textile? To moderate this timely discussion, I would like to invite Mr. Avinash Mayekar, MD and CEO, Suven Advisors Private Limited. Mr. Mayekar has over 32 years of experience working in consulting firms and various reputed textile companies of India. His main specialization lies in strategy building, business process re-engineering, and technical textiles. Mr. Mayekar, you may begin the proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. In fact, the topic, can India take the lead in MFF and technical textiles? That itself is giving me a lot of, bumps, because I'm basically a cotton lover. I have my company name Suvin, that is also coming from cotton. My son's name is Suvin. So why Mr. Rakesh has asked me to moderate this session? Because he wants to convince me first, and maybe thereafter my panelists who are from this particular industry, they are having a lot of knowledge about this. Coming to India as such, you will see that India means cotton. It is a cotton cultivating country. It is well known in the global market. We have a good share whenever it comes to cotton based products. But when it comes to man-made fiber, yet we have to make a dent. Yet we have to do quite a lot. And I think that's why this particular deliberation is whether we can be the leader, we can take the lead as far as man-made fiber and technical textiles are concerned. If at all we see that the value chain of man-made fibers, we are even behind Bangladesh and Cambodia, these countries as far as our exports are concerned. There are few reasons why we are not able to do that. First and foremost is that there are free trade agreements with certain countries like Bangladesh, whereas we don't have any such type of free trade agreements. And other is duty disadvantage as far as our raw materials which we are using for in this particular sector. When we come to figures, we'll see that 500 billion US dollar is the total man-made fiber garment market as far as AEPC study is concerned. And we have sportswear, which is almost $170 billion. Now having such a large population in our country and so many sports icons coming day in and day out on various TV channels, we are observing so many sports which are happening in India. We should be a leader in that particular segment, but that's not happening. Why it is not happening, that we need to discuss in this particular session. Similarly, technical textiles, which we all of us started understanding it more closely when the COVID-19 came to India and we were badly hit, then we found that thanks to Dr. Rakshit's efforts, and the hygiene and medical textile became the boom. Anybody and everybody who was in garment industry started doing so many things that we became almost number 2 in the globe. India was nothing, very less as far as medical textile is concerned, but we have done that. So India is a very challenge-taking country, and I'm sure that we'll take this challenge also of in man-made industry. If at all we see expected technical textile global market, it is almost US dollar 220 billion, and it is growing with 5.8% CAGR, which is not that bad as far as growth rate is concerned. Whereas if we see the survey, baseline survey, which is done by Ministry of Textiles, it says that we would be at around 2 trillion Indian rupees by 2022. Now, if at all we see the global market and our efforts and where we are at this stage, there is a long way to go. We need to do quite a very hard work. And how to achieve that? We need to have the perfect people to guide us. And that's what is my panel. I am fortunate to have in-depth knowledge-based panel members. I will just introduce them. First is Mr. Anjani Prasad, who is MD of Archroma India. I think he would be landing in some minutes, and then he will be available for us. Before that, I will also introduce Dr. Anup Rakshit, the Executive Director of ITA. I don't think he needs any introduction. He has already worked intensively in Reliance. He was in the R&D activities as well as market promotions. And I know him for more than 3 decades now. So he is the pillar of the technical textile field. Mr. Avinash Mane, coming from Lenzing, South Asia. He is heading Lenzing South Asia. And he has in-depth knowledge of not only his fiber, but also of other fibers. And I'm sure that he will bring on table how things are happening globally as well as within India. Then I'm fortunate to have only one lady, Dr. Manisha Mathur, but she is having in-depth knowledge of her specialization, that is R&D activities. And she is joint director now in Sasmira. And last but not the least, Mr. Ronak Rughani, who is chairman of SRTPC. So you produce anything and everything, he has the market for us, and he would see to it that the products will get sold globally. And how to do that? For that, he would, of course, we will be deliberating that throughout the session. So I'm also having some polls, and first poll would be starting now, Mr. Rakesh.
Yes, we will do the first 2 polls.
Yeah, please go ahead. So first question is, what are the growth challenges for man-made fibers? You have multiple choices. Select one of the choice of your, as far as whatever you have thought of. So here is the result. High cost of raw material inputs, that is 49%. 30% is on government policies favoring cotton-based value chain. 30% is inadequate support of exports. 28% is lack of clarity on taxes in the MFF value chain. There is a disparity, and no focus on branding. That is also 28%, and lack of economies of scale. That is 23%. So I think more balanced feedback what we have got, but raw material prices is one. We have immediate next poll number 2. What are the growth challenges for technical textile market? Again, we have multiple choices. Select one of the choice. So here is the result. 61% says that low level of technical know-how. 63% say that less investment in R&D activities. This is quite true that Dr. Manisha Mathur, you have to do quite a lot as far as R&D activities are concerned. And then less is very less. That is lack of availability is 33%. Rest are less than almost 20%. So R&D activity is the key thing, and I think that's the most important thing, because when it comes to technical textiles, it is nothing but R&D. Thanks a lot for this response, and now we'll go to the directly question and answer session. And first and foremost thing, my opening batsman again is Dr. Rakshit. Dr. Rakshit, very simple, straightforward question, not beating about the bush. COVID-19, whether it was blessing for Indian technical textile industry.
So first of all, good afternoon to all of you, and thanks to Indian Textile Journal management for inviting me to this webinar. Now you see, look, I just wanted to start with this, your question that, see, our industry is always looking for the opportunities, which is the a unique example of what has happened for the last about a year or so. Now we, particularly what I am talking is about the personal protective equipment. We were actually manufacturing not zero, but about a couple of thousand pieces per day, which has been increased within 3 months time or so to nearly 5 lakhs per day. So this shows the tenacity of our industry. If they want to do, they can. Now, how it achieved is the basic raw material was produced by the Indian technical textile industry members, people in the in India. But how suddenly, maybe some people having question in mind that how suddenly it could happen and how it is possible. Now, one reason is that we were very closely working on this project, that we could convert number of apparel manufacturing industries who were not having much of business for their garments, and they all entered into the PPE business. So there was a large scale production of the garments. That is what you are seeing that doctors or the health workers are wearing. Only they had to, induct some of the specialty equipments for the sealing part and then the tape and all that. That is how we could to the 5 lakhs of this. Now the thing is that if we want to, now today, people are actually trying to, and there is no dearth of the basic raw material or the fabric, which is predominantly is a breathable film along with the polypropylene non-woven thin fabric combined together. Now this is what is protecting you from all those viruses to penetrate into the body or contaminate. Number one. Number two, we did really initially little compromise about the specifications because of the emergency and because of the urgent requirement of the volume, because that is why initially the product was not suitable for export point of view. Now gradually what has happened, export was opened, and this export, another thing you need to know, that this type of technical textiles is not sold just like that. You need to have a lot of certification to the particularly the countries like Europe, countries like USA, Japan, and those sensitive countries and having a lot of regulations, you need to have the certification. So a couple of people have already got the certification as per that their requirement. It is called level 4, which is pretty high end. Now, that is why the export has not picked up, but I'm sure that next couple of months of the year, this is going to definitely increase, particularly these medical masks and the PPE. But if you see your question, part of it is whether can this particular example of the industry's performance can take it the performance further for the global market? I would say yes, because not the only PPE and the masks, but there are a lot of products where our presence in global market is very low. We have already identified some 10 different items, which is at the 6th level HS code level, which is multiplied to almost like 40 to 50 products, which has got a global presence of our presence, which is the largest traded material in the global trade. And that is why in PLI scheme, these 10 products have been mentioned. And this is the message to the industry is that this has to be we have to actually grab the opportunity, how to grow these, get the pie of these export market.
Okay.
Now, if yeah, just a little bit of statistics, what you said, I just want to have this is the baseline survey that you hold. We have little bit with the ministry, we have updated this. Today, our industry is not so small because many people have the perception that what technical textile is a very small this thing. But if you see, it is today, currently, it is almost $20 billion US with a growth rate of about 12%. Vis-a-vis, the international global market is about 250 or so, 55 billion US dollar.
Yeah.
And the growth rate in overall growth rate is only about 4%. So this shows how we are growing, and definitely we have a target in another 4 to 5 years by 2024-25. It should be almost double. That means about 40 billion. And how does it compare with our local total textile business is about 162 billion, including all textiles and clothing.
Right.
So the pie of technical textile is about 12%. So it's no more a small one,
yeah,
because a lot of people are entering this business. So
right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Raunak Rugani, we have heard about technical textiles. What's happening with man-made fiber industry? What is your take as far as the total market is concerned? How is the future of it and where India stands? Globally, what are the challenges and how we can go about it?
Right. Now, namaskar to everyone, and thank you for this opportunity. And well, I represent the Synthetic and Rayon Textiles Export Promotion Council. So I'll be speaking on this subject as it's our favorite subject. Now, see, the man-made fiber textile industry in India is one of the largest in the world, with a large raw material base and manufacturing strength across the entire value chain. Now, India is the second largest producer of MMF in the world, that is polyester fiber and viscose fiber, with the presence of large plants with state-of-the-art technology. See, most of the man-made fibers are currently produced in India are like polyester and viscose. Besides polyester and viscose, there are other major varieties such as nylon, acrylic, and polypropylene. And all of this, India is self-sufficient. The domestic industry mainly comprises of two components, polyester and viscose, which together accounts for 94% of the production in volume terms. Under this, polyester itself is 77%, while viscose is for the remaining amount. Our production capacity presently is approximately 1,596 million kgs of MMF fibers and 3,550 kgs of man-made filament yarn. And approximately 28,000 million square meters of fabrics were produced from man-made fibers and their blends during the previous year. As usual, China continues to dominate its position as the top producing country of MMF staple fiber in the global market. Its production has reached around 14 million tons in 2019, up nearly 6% over 2005. India is the second largest producer, but yet there's a big gap between number one and number two. And we just have a growth rate of around 7%. Now, world exports of MMF textiles is around 180 billion, in which India's share is only 3% and China's share is 33%. But this is the overall scenario. There's a huge scope, there's a huge gap, and which we can actually fill and we can actually conquer these things we'll talk about once as the session continues. This was just a brief about the industry, and then we'll just continue once we come to the other discussion.
Just one question, additional question to you is that whether we have the full-fledged capacity utilization in India of the fiber?
80% capacity utilization, 20% is still surplus.
Okay.
According to the data which we have, and we can actually.
Thank you. Dr. Mathur, you have seen the survey result, which was showing that we need to do quite a lot in R&D activities as far as man-made fiber industry and technical textiles are concerned. Yes. What is your take on this? Whether things are happening in the right direction, whether people are coming to institutes like you for research and development, whether there are investors who are looking at it very seriously. What is the exact status? Please guide us.
Yeah. Good evening to all. Thank you, Avinash, for this question, and thank you to ITJ for inviting me to be a panelist and share my thoughts. As far as I disagree with you that pandemic has brought technical textile into the feature. Technical textile has been existing as long as I've been existing into service, which is more than 20 years now. It started off in 1991, and Susmira has been contributing to all the technical textile papers and the white papers also for all products. And it is not new. Yes, I agree that there is no research and development, so to speak of, as compared to the other countries. But in our own way, all the technical textile research associations have been working in development of products, whereas the raw materials are concerned, or new product is concerned, or even machinery is concerned. Just to cite a few, ever since the manufacture of the agro-textiles has increased in India, we have been working on the R&D. Smart shade nets have been developed. The water shade nets have been developed, which are harvesting water. Solar shade nets have been developed. But most of the development which the research organizations are doing are only on prototype based. It is the industry who needs to come forward to take this lead and then develop it into a commercial product. Far as the machinery is also concerned, we are doing the testing of the PPE kits. If Citra had not developed the blood penetration tester well in advance, we wouldn't have been doing this testing today. They had already made it in place. So that research had gone into making that particular equipment, which is not made by anybody else anywhere. So we have the one indigenously made that. Similarly, for the agro-textiles also, Susmira has developed the windbreak testers, the shadometers, which are now being adopted also by the BIS and has been mandatory by any company who is going for the BIS marking. So yes, the work is being done, but it is on a minuscule as of now. Industry needs to come forward. The ministry also needs to pump in more funds for research and development. Otherwise, the research organizations are working only for the development of the product, prototype developments. Industry has to come forward to take that.
Okay, just one clarification. I was saying that general public understood that there is a market, because when it comes to technical textiles, I'm promoting technical textiles for 25 years, and I used to be the last speaker, giving a slot of 5 minutes or 10 minutes to speak on technical textiles at that time. But general perception is that if at all there is a market, we will put up the unit, and that's why the businessmen, they started understanding that now there is a medical textile, so we can just convert our existing machines, and then they started it again. ITA and other, even Ministry of Textiles has helped them quite a lot. Coming to you, Mr. Avinash Mane, we hear quite a lot about the green textiles, disposable textiles, many jargons like, that ecology, environment, days, that so many things are bumping on us. And if at all I am a representative of the industry, I get, confused. Just tell us whether something is really happening in man-made fiber and technical textile sector as far as the real, these jargons are concerned. Can you just elaborate on this?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm Avinash, and thanks ITJ first for this platform and to speak on this topic, which is very close to lensing as an organization, sustainability. When we revisit, say 5 years back, the whole sustainability jargon on a topic, this was something which was in discussion. But if we see last 2 or 3 years, this is something which is getting more and more practiced in on-ground activation, we can say, for this has happened. And COVID in 2020 has rather made it even better with the hygiene component adding into it. So sustainability along with the hygiene is moving very well, and we have seen a clear effect of this coming in the last 2 quarters. Once the market started opening from September onwards, the global market started opening, and slowly we are having Indian markets also opening up. So these are getting really practiced now, and sustainability is getting addressed by definite 3 to 4 headings, like raw material, then the supply chain, how it can contribute into the sustainability. That is the second heading. The third heading is what happens to the product once it is being used and it is going back to the nature. So when it is coming to the raw material aspect, here, like a lot of global retailers and brands, they have now moving away from the normal cotton. That you also might be witnessing this. They are into either into organic cotton or just to start with even with BCI. We at Lenzing has introduced sustainable viscose Ecovero 4 years back, and anticipating that this is the next thing which is going to happen big in the global industry, and we now are not able to cater the demand itself for this sustainable viscose, and we have decided to convert our say entire capacity into a sustainable viscose in say next 1.5 to 2 years down the line, and we are moving a step ahead and already announced and introduced carbon zero options for all 3 generations of cellulosic fibers. So that is what is happening from the raw material side. When it is coming to supply chain base, even see Dr. Anjani Prasad from Archroma, he can also throw some light, but then use of say GOTS certified dyes and auxiliaries chemicals, then going for zero discharge facilities. This is something which is getting practiced by supply chain, and it is getting well monitored also, which was earlier was happening as a part of the process. Just we need that certification and it's there, that's it. But it's not the case now. It's really getting practiced. When it is coming to say the recycling or what happens to the product after being it is used, then there are 2 aspects which are coming into the picture, whether it can be put back into the system. That is also being done by our side with our refibra technology, like lyocell is getting recirculated there, and then new product is getting introduced to the market. At the same time, biodegradability is getting a better definition in terms of the time period which is required for a completely product getting back to the nature, whether it is a decomposition in soil or it is a decomposition happening into the water. The issue of microfibers is getting addressed appropriately in relation with the man-made fibers, which are more or less responsible for having this created. So that way, the things are really changing at a very faster pace, not only at the global space, but also in India when it is going for having sustainability practices across the supply chain. So that's how I would like to say on the sustainability.
Yeah, thanks. Just one small question to you, that when we see as a wood base or wood pulp base fibers, then we think that you are doing deforesting. So how do you counter check this? What you can say about this?
See, for yeah, that's a good question. Like a general perception for everybody would be it's a wood-based cellulosic fiber. So you guys are cutting the trees and then you are putting into the fiber manufacturing. See, everything is closely monitored by third-party bodies. Like we have FSC in place, that is Forest Stewardship Council. We have PEFC body in place. We have Canopy in place who is monitoring this. And all the raw material is, of course, of a good manufacturer comes from the sustainably monitored forest. In a layman's term, like we say, you grow the trees to give back more oxygen to the nature, because trees would consume carbon dioxide, use the water from the ground, and then they do undergo the photosynthesis process and oxygen is produced more. That's why we say grow the trees. But like every living thing, trees also have their lifespan. And once that lifespan is over, the capacity of these trees to convert carbon dioxide into the oxygen depletes. That is what is the critical point, when this tree can be better used for the other purposes, like either to make the paper or to make this cellulosic fiber. So that is exactly what happens into when the raw material sourcing is done in a sustainable way. That entire raw material is sourced from this sustainable forestry. And with entire globe going more or less towards the paperless way of working, more and more of this sustainable forest sourced wood is available to be used for the man-made cellulosic industry. So that is how it is being addressed. We are not damaging any forest. Rather, we are replacing the old soldiers with a new one, because for every tree which is taken for the fiber manufacturing, after its lifespan is over, there are two or multiple more trees are being always planted, and that is what is our commitment to the entire industry.
Okay, thanks for this insight. Mr. Anjani Prasad, first of all, welcome to the session. And you are you are at right time, because we are going to accuse you for polluting the entire globe with your chemicals.
Yeah, I will come back on that. Thanks for it. And basically, I just landed from Delhi for the audience, and then I was inside, and all this COVID tests and hundreds of things going on. So it's a different world of traveling. Now, coming to the topic of the two areas, mainly, I will touch what was spoken earlier, a few things. First thing is on the West Coast, basically, where the feed to the West Coast is all the trees, as you know, but the things are changing around the world also for the paper industry because of packaging coming in. So there's a lot of wood required also for packaging, not just for the tissues and also for other writing papers. So there is a huge demand of also the wood in the industry, but that's why the importance of recycling becomes very important. And the chemical companies are also working towards it. The cotton waste, which is there, the issue is how do we segregate this cotton waste and convert that into viscose either by stripping, dissolution and regeneration. That's one of the ways, but you will get short stable at the end of the day. Also important is that on the polyester front, there's a lot of things happening, but still we are not able to catch up to that of quality. Now coming to the chemical industry, what we can do, and we are trying to work out the best possible ways of processing the man-made fiber, which is normally used in blends in a big way, which is mainly coming on from the rayons and the polyester in a big way. And that's where the one-step processes are very important. The dyeing and the process, man-made fiber part and the polyester part. And there are very good processes which we have come out with. We call it as a SWIFT, process, which really helps to improve the whole thing. There is a big demand from the blended fabrics, mainly on account of cotton prices going up. Also, you must have seen this import duty, about 10% levy. It's not really affecting much, about 3% of the total cotton imports, but it's really going to make a big impact going forward in the prices of cotton, which is actually not really in a way sustainable as compared to the man-made fiber. So the processing part which is going on is not the best in India. The quality which Koreans and Taiwanese can give on the polyester especially is state of the art. Even weight reduction processes and polyester not been able to do the way you don't find a good unit on continuous weight reduction also in India, which is very important for the polyester in terms of the feel and the right quality which it can give. So in terms of processing, I will go forward as the new questions come forward to me. There are many things to be spoken, but I will wait for the other questions.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Coming to, this was the first session where we were discussing about the present status, how is the industry in various segments. Now coming to the next poll, that is poll number 3. Can you put up, Mr. Rakesh? So policies to increase global market share in man-made fiber and technical textile. Government policies like for MSMEs will help India in increase global market share in MMF and technical textile. So you have 3 choices. Please select one. So 62% says yes. So everybody is positive that yes, these all new schemes will help us. Manirbhar. Coming to, we have seen the status. Now what are challenges in front of us? Mr. Ronak Rughani and Dr. Rakshit, I wanted both of you to come on this particular question. That India has sizable share as far as cotton-based technical textiles or textile, not technical textiles, but textiles are concerned. But when it comes to man-made fiber and technical textile, it is minuscule. You said 12% is of the Indian, but if at all you compare it with the global, it is very less. So what are the challenges and opportunities what we have? First is Mr. Ronak Rughani and thereafter Dr. Rakshit. Mr. Rughani, please.
All right. Very good question. See, the first thing is the MMF segment is a part of the, where there's a high GST tax rate and the end GST tax on the fabric is, there's a huge gap between the two. So there's inverted duty structure that makes the Indian products uncompetitive. Then the other thing is the other countries who produce MMF textiles, they somehow circumvent the WTO guidelines and over-subsidize their products, making it cheaper compared to the Indian products, because of which we have a disadvantage. Number three, the most important one is we lack R&D. We lack research and development on the MMF textile front, because of which we haven't really seen the growth, and because of which our share is very, very minuscule. Like, for example, whenever we talk about textiles or fabrics, see, I am restricting myself to the purview of what I know. It's like say till fabrics or made-ups. So most fabrics, what we talk about is all woven. We think of as woven. Actually, the world is going towards knits. Now, most of our clothing, and fabrics are raw material for clothing. So most of the things are, there's a lot of lack of research of, it's only these international brands that do research, and they have come out with, dry fits, and whereas, that has been replaced traditionally by cotton. That's where the share is growing. But India doesn't have that. We haven't really done that. And we're just happy to produce on the guidelines of what the supplier or the buyer wants, but there is no innovation. So that's one of the biggest reasons why we really haven't seen that.
Okay, fine. Dr. Rakshit, what's happening in technical textiles?
Yeah, I'll just tell about the opportunities first, then I'll touch upon about the challenges. Yeah. You see, we feel that there is a great opportunity of technical textiles, and it is interrelated to the man-made fibers and yarns as well, because predominantly this industry, these products are made from the synthetic fibers. Now, what was happening is, in our case, why we have this disparity now, because we have, I think, 4 or 5 decades, we were cotton-based economy and cotton-based agricultural products, where vis-a-vis, we have a share of maybe about 30-70 or so, or 40-60, whereas it is totally reverse in other countries. Although even the cotton producing countries also, they have come up with a huge development and penetration into the MMF, but which we have not really done. But now it is understood, and let us work together how we can reverse that, at least to reach 50-50 or if not 70-30. Now, first of all, if we see the domestic market, in domestic market, as far as technical textile is concerned, we see there is a huge opportunity. And we are finding a lot of investments are coming. Many people are interested to pay money and invest in this segment. Why? Now we have corrected the fundamentals. See, for example, about 3 to 4 years back, we were not knowing, people were totally confused which are called technical textile and which are not. So now finally, in the February 2019, 207 products have been identified by the Ministry of Commerce and Textiles that these are the technical textile products on which everything will move around. Statistics, subsidy, all this. Although this 207 is not enough, we have also again given some nearly 100 cases. These they are under consideration. This is going to grow. And for the domestic market, about early last year, 92 applications were mandated in various tenders. So this gives we were actually working on it for at least 3 to 4 years. Finally, it happened. And 92 applications means it has a product which is more than maybe 100, 150 products, applications, not the products. So they have been mandated. Now that is how in the tender and everywhere this should be used for as a mandate. Then other areas which even in the budget also, and we also have a very large network of railway and roads. And there are lakhs and crores of rupees have been allocated during the current budget for the infrastructure, national and state highway development, and also the railway lines. These are having high potential of usage of geosynthetics. And also the protective textile, which you see in the train, where that, all curtains are now FR, flame retardant. And the work is going on how to use non-woven sheets instead of these cotton bed sheets and these things which people are reluctant to use because we are not sure whether they are laundered properly or not. So these are the opportunities which are going to come. We have a lot of, for agro textiles, we have got currently nearly 5.5 to 6 lakh local water bodies, particularly the desert areas and where drought prone areas. There are geosynthetics, geomembranes, which are used for holding that, creating artificial ponds. So these are the opportunities which India is going to, our industry can grab. Lastly, or not the last, is we are seeing this, what is happening about the medical textiles. Now we have lakhs and nearly crore health workers and the frontline. So this is going to remain because this is not going to go away. As per WTO estimate, next 2 to 3 years. Now in India and also various countries, this is going to remain. Right. So these are the various opportunities in the domestic market. Now, if you talk about the export market, today from India, nearly 15 to 16,000 crores, which is only 207 HS codes, but according to our internal estimate, it is more than 23,000 crores of exports happening from India to various countries. Right. And majority of them are the western side, also Middle East, and also this Far East side as well. Yeah. Now, there is a good scope, which I earlier mentioned. There are a number of products which are in global trade, and now China exiting from the global market. There is a huge opportunity for Indian technical textile industry to grab that. And this is to capture the global market. Yeah. Secondly, there is, even if you look at the figure of import, currently monthly import is nearly 15 to 16,000 crores, almost similar. Yeah. 1,000 crores are being imported. And when we analyze the data, you see the products which are being produced in India, they are the maximum which are being imported, which you will be surprised.
I thought these are the products which are different.
If you think other way around, that we know the data, what is happening, particularly you see the coated textiles. Yeah. Then I was surprised why it is so. They say, no, these Chinese products are much cheaper than and good quality than what we are producing in India. Similarly, some of the synthetic leathers, some of the other products which are being imported, which they say the quality is not up to the mark, we have to import it. Now, why we are not? This is another important point about the quality. To my industry friends also, I always tell, please look at the quality. If you do not have quality, today it is not only export, it is domestic and export both. Our local market is also quality conscious. It cannot have, because they have a choice, because you have the products which are being imported.
Right. In fact, being technical textiles, there is no choice for quality. These are functional textiles. Choice. Yeah, you have to produce the best quality.
Best quality.
Yeah, Mr. Anjani Prasad.
Yeah, sorry. The challenges, I just want to mention the challenges in another 1 minute or half a minute.
Yeah.
Is the challenges, I told these opportunities, but we do have the challenges. Main challenge is the raw material of all these, high performance fibers like paraffin, glass, then your nylon, even nylon 6/6, then your various polyethylene fibers, polyolefin fibers are not being produced in India, aramid. So these are not produced in India. Of course, let us hope that with this R&D allocation in this NTTM is going to happen. Another point is about the problem is about the testing facility. sophisticated testing facilities we do not have in our so-called RD, even various laboratories of COEs and also the other laboratories like DRDO, MSRDC, everywhere.
Yeah.
It is not there. So, and this is leading to the certification. This certification, if somebody has to export the product, they have to get their products approved in CE certification or NIOSH and other things in US or Europe, which takes more than 6 to 8 months. That is what is currently happening with these PPE exports.
Yeah.
So we have actually taken up with the BIS that why not we take G2G level, that our certification, BIS certification should be acceptable to the world.
Yeah.
And lastly, I want to touch upon about the machinery. Earlier session also, many people have mentioned, this is really there is a vacuum. And we need not to have a big technology like how to make these spun bond products or the other things. We can have, why we do not have the proper garmenting machinery? Why we do not have the small baby diaper making machinery and sanitary napkin making machinery? These are very simple machinery. Why not start with that?
So it is very simple because there is no demand. They are not producing it. And
no, but then why we look at only India? They have to compete with Taiwan, China, Korea, and they have to be globally competitive with the quality and the type of machines.
Right. Yeah, Mr. Ajani,
I think I stop here.
Yeah.
Thank Dr. Mike, Mr. Maiker, I just like to add one point, if
please.
That's okay.
Please, quick.
You see, the other thing is India is predominantly seen, as you introduced itself, is seen as a cotton producing and cotton exporting country only.
Right.
Very few people are aware of India's strength in the MMF segment. Now, what we really need to do is change the perception that yes, of course, we are very, very strong in cotton, and it's not only traditional cotton items. We are also very, very strong, and we have a strong manufacturing base for our MMF products as well, where it comes to fibers, yarns, fabrics, and things like that. For that, there needs to be a better communication strategy, wherein it is communicated to the buyers, and the perception has to be changed that yes, we are equally or a better. We can be a better value supply chain partner to the world. Now, unless and until that changes, there's always going to be, we are always going to be on the back foot.
Right. Just one question to you. Don't you think that there are very less players in man-made fiber industry than cotton industry, Mr. Rugani?
No, that is not true. You see, what is happening is we have to understand that cotton industry, the cotton raw material is from the farmers, which is from a large chunk. Here it is reverse. The players are that many only. It's the second largest industry. Okay, there are 2 or 3 players who produce majority of the fibers. I agree to that. Say 26 polyester fiber manufacturers and 1 viscose fiber manufacturer in India. But downstream, you see so many texturizers, so many yarn spinners, so many weavers, so many process houses, so many dye houses. Look at Surat, look at Ichalkaranji, look at Bhiwandi as a cluster. Millions of units. So that is absolutely not true. It looks like that. It looks like that to the government also. It looks like that to the world also. But it's not true. It's only because the raw material base is from conglomerates. And the downstream value chain is the small and middle segment players. But in cotton, it's the other way around. The producers are smaller farmers. And when it comes to spinners and all, they're all bigger business.
Okay, got your point.
So that's one perception.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mr. Anjani Prasad, very recently budget has been announced.
Yeah.
So what is your take on that? Whether things are favorable, how things are going to happen? What is your take on that?
I feel the budget is announced and it helps in a way for us, mainly in terms of the man-made fibers. But the main problem for us is still what Dr. Rakshit was saying, is on the scale of operation in terms of either the education part, which is still missing. We need to spend a lot on this education for technical textiles, especially, and then also on the skill development, because we need a lot of joint venture going on, either with the Taiwanese company or with the European company. When you go for all this big technical textile exhibition, you will see that there is hardly a presence of India. You will not even find few stalls there. but then you can find a big amount of textile, in a huge way, the big machine manufacturers and almost European centric. This is what we need to change, and how we can further modify the budget and get the things done and get the people are not going because they don't know. I'll tell you very clearly. What they know, they do. So that's where the whole thing lies. Also, coming to some, okay, these are some of my feedbacks on that. Can I add something on the chemical front, which is happening on the technical textiles, which will also help the audience in a way?
If at all you can be very brief, because we are short
And
of
I'll
time.
be just few lines.
Yeah.
There are a few things we need to change very clearly. One is that we need to go out of the VOC, solvent-based chemistries to be out in technical textiles. Second is that in this flame retardants, no halogen-based, which is big problem in the AOX in the whole life cycle. A third important is fluorine-based chemistry is also getting into pressure, and we have to get it for non-fluorine chemistries going forward. These are three major things which has to change in the industry to really work out. The other important is the polymers which are used in a big way as adhesives and various ingredients. These are not recyclable. So we need to go for more polylactic acid and special kind of polymers which can help in terms of recycling. Just take the case of mask, and how do you collect it and how do you recycle it? That's a big question.
Yeah. So how things are happening in Bangladesh and Vietnam and Cambodia, because they are the new emerging markets? What is your take?
I feel on technical textiles, not much in Bangladesh and Vietnam, but definitely high amount in Taiwan, Korea, and
no, I'm talking of man-made fiber. I'm talking of man-made fibers.
Man-made fibers, the usages is going, as rightly said, in knits more. We have to be prepared for the knits, but man-made fiber, mainly viscose, is not really easy on the knits because of pilling and other problems. So we need to use the right kind of high modulus viscose. If you go for this low modulus and then it's gone in the wrong direction and you get a lot of hairiness and you can't get the quality at all. We need to have the right quality and the right processes and blending to happen.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Manisha Mathur, as we are discussing about neighboring countries or our nearest competitors, as far as technical textiles are concerned. So what are India's strengths and how we can really compete with them? What is your take on that?
Coming to, I think Dr. Rakshit has already summarized most of our weaknesses and the strength. The biggest strength is that we have availability of young and cheap manpower. If you compare it with China, it's 1/5 availability of the cost of the manpower as compared to China. We are even lesser as compared to what it is in Vietnam, maybe at par with Bangladesh and other things. So that's our biggest strength. But again, going there, it's just not the availability. The weakness comes that they are not trained. So we need to have a proper training of these manpower for us to deliver in the field of technical textile. Because technical textile, as you say, cannot have any failure. We cannot take the wrong fiber and then process it, and then at the end of the chain, we find out that it is not the right product. So that is one of the important things. Availability is there. We need to train them. So both of things go hand in hand. We have very good manufacturing infrastructure. As again, already pointed out, we have a very good second largest rail network in the world. We have the 4th largest road network in the world. So connectivity and movement of the entire value chain is also very, very well placed. Another strong point is we have the entire value chain as compared to other countries which have got dependency for the fibers and the yarns. We have got the entire value chain wherein it is beneficial to our country as compared to maybe Taiwan or other countries. We have the better part is that we also have a very active promotion by the Government of India, Ministry of Textiles. There have been in the past a lot of talks on technical textiles and a lot of inputs have been given into it. Though I don't think it is to the extent of which the industry requires, but they have to have that they are very active in the promotion of technical textiles and understanding of technical textiles and taking the technical textile to a world stage. So those are our strengths. Weaknesses, definitely the biggest weakness is lack of standardization, mandation. Even if you talk about any product, say technical textile product of agro-textile, the agro-textile product which you see in the market is being used for the shamiyanas also, it is being used everywhere. Yeah. So we need to understand that if it is to be used as a shade net, what is the specification? Once we started off 10 years back, there was not a single standard on even the definition of what are the agro-textile products. So with the help of the BIS, the industry players and everything, we have tried to get in the standards. Once the standards are there, then it can be taught to the users and the manufacturers both alike, that these are the specifications which are required if it is to be used at this particular technical textile product. So that's one of the most important things.
Thank you. Mr. Mane, coming to you for as competitive advantage of India vis-a-vis other countries. What is your take on that as you are taking care of the South Asia?
Yeah, very simple answer to this. Like when you move into the textile supply chains, whether it is India, whether it is Bangladesh, even if you go to Sri Lanka, Vietnam, even Middle East, whatever presence is there, particularly when you see the textile industry, the key positions are handled by Indian technicians only. Whether it is a spinning unit, whether it is dyeing and finishing unit,
I agree.
you will find Indians are there to take care of that.
Right.
So again, coming to the point which is highlighted by Mr. Ronak, Dr. Manisha, and other panelists. We are having a great opportunity with us. We are the best spinners in the world when it is coming to spinning fine counts of the yarn. We are having the entire infrastructure with us, whether it is spinning, weaving, supply chain management, till garmenting. We have that complete technical know-how. We are having a sufficient access to the global markets also. And one right thing which has happened in pandemic is opportunities are being created, and it is up to us as an industry to really get them converted into commercial things. And once this conversion happens, then it will start growing and it is getting established.
Okay.
One point which I would like to just put a emphasis is that level playing field is required when it is coming to making the raw material available to the industry.
Yeah.
That is something wherein it will help for entire supply chains to get more competitive when it is coming to supplying the similar end product on the global platform. So, because this was coming as a first point also in your introduction session.
Yeah.
So that would be one of the important aspect for entire industry also to align and contribute. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, again, I would like to stick to you, and now everybody, each panelist has to give two things in single word. That what are the two things which are required India to do? Mr. Mane, you first. It would be from you.
Yeah, I think I have already answered this, but I would re-insist with some.
Just in one sentence.
We need a level playing field for the Indian textile industry.
Okay.
That is something which is the need of an hour. And if you ask for the second point, that is from the industry side, we need to improve on our quality. We need to improve our delivery on times. We need to improve our sampling and response times to the customers. These are the things which needs to be contributed from the industry side.
Thank you. Dr. Anjani Prasad, what are the two things which you think India should do?
From my side, it's basically education and training, which is very important in this field. Second one is to having a scale of operation built up and getting the cost and the quality in order.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Manisha Mathur, please.
Promote research culture. That is most important thing, and mass sensitization, because until unless the mass is aware of the importance of the technical textiles, nothing is going to happen further.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ronak Roghani, please.
Well, what we really need to do, and this is the only way we can grow and have an exponential growth, is creating international brands which are Indian but supplying globally and globally renowned. Like, for example, what Uniqlo has done. You know what these are, the Marks and Spencers and all are. They control, the buying patterns. India should stop being supply partners for them. Instead, we should be creating our own brands which clothe the entire world. That is the only way forward.
Fine, thank you. Dr. Rakshit?
Simply is that the focus for the industry friends is for the product innovation, and that product innovation and adhere to the quality. Quality is not for export, quality for domestic and local as well. And look at the opportunities which are coming for the next 4 to 5 years and grab those opportunities and grow. to the industry and to the government is that we should make sure that these raw materials, particularly high performance fibers, even polyester fibers, certain grades are not available, glass, certain grades are not available. It is actually, there is a 1,000 crores allocated for R&D. My appeal is that we have told in various forums that it should be utilized, but that product to come out of from the design desk to the final, it is going to take time, maybe not less than 3-4 years.
Okay.
Till that time, this product should be available at a very low customs duty level, so that will be make a level playing field for the others. Another is the self industry for the certification and testing. These testings are certifications, we are already working on it. Various state governments have also come forward, but that is a need for the hour.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much to all panelists. Just to summarize, yes, we can be the leader as far as man-made fiber and technical textiles are concerned. We need to do some refinement. First and foremost thing is that from our mindset, we have to remove that we are just cotton-based industry. We can also do very good man-made fiber related products as well. We have a very good infrastructure available with us. In fact, we have the capacity, as it is mentioned, that it is at number 2 globally, but we are yet not doing the value addition the way it should have been done. Similarly, in case of technical textiles, not only our domestic utilization, but also we can explore various export opportunities by innovating products. And where we are missing, mainly which has come out of your survey also, is that the testing facilities are not there, R&D activities are less, and with that, I think sky is the limit for us. Thank you all of you, and I hand over to Mr. Rakesh Rao.
Thank you, Mr. Maikar, and all the panelists for this engaging discussion and insightful thoughts. Moving on to our next agenda, I would like to call upon our next speaker, Mr. Pratap Patode, editor of ITJ and founder and president, First Construction Council, for his welcome address and also the unveiling of ITJ Annual 2021.
Thank you, Rakesh. I must first of all address the chief speakers and dignitaries for this Indian Textile Journal's Business E-Conference. So first of all, I would like to thank Mr. Ajit B. Chavan, Secretary and CEO of Textiles Committee, Ministry of Textiles, Government of India, who's our guest of honor for today's event. Our association partners, the Textile Association of India, Indian Technical Textile Association and Textile Machinery Manufacturers Association of India, and our esteemed panelists who have enlightened us with their insights on the industry, and of course our subscribers and our delegates who are attending this event. So good evening all of you. I hope you've had an engaging session today on our textile industry. Indian Textile Journal, as you know, is now 131 years old and has always led the industry from the forefront. So though the country could become a major player in cotton textiles and exports, it has been lagging behind in the MMF textile trade due to expensive raw material and high tariff barriers, apart from cheaper imports from neighboring countries. The government is considering promotion of MMF and technical textile even under the production linked incentive scheme, which has been one of the hallmarks of this current budget. So the formulation of the focus product incentive scheme under the ambit of the PLI scheme is in process currently. The objective is to create global champions, which is good news for the industry in MMF apparel and technical textiles. And we were hearing the panelists, and I think the aspirations of all our panelists seem to be that India must no more lend its market to others to be able to profit from, but we should also be able to make a play in the global market. And the scheme will provide incentive from 3 to 15% on stipulated incremental turnover for a period of 5 years after 1 year of gestation period for brownfield investment and 2 years gestation period for a greenfield investment. Also in the budget 21-22, the MITRA, which is the Mega Integrated Textile Regions and Parks scheme, has been announced, which will also now follow suit. to boost domestic manufacturing and to create world-class infrastructure at one place with plug-and-play facilities. It will enable textile industry to achieve size and scale to become globally competitive. So the vision, which our panelists were also talking about, is there now, and it is for us to follow suit. We have 7 mega textile parks which are going to be established over 3 years. The fiscal stimulus through the PLI scheme of 10,683 crores has also been announced, which will help generate job opportunities and be able to provide exports a boost. Our new textile policy, our minister has just said, is also in the works and is at draft stage and soon to be finalized. The demand seems to be picking up and is likely to continue in the upcoming quarters as per ICRA rating agency. Performance of exports is also much better than domestic markets as the economies of the buying regions have opened up. So we have pace has picked up, whether it may be from pent-up demand or pick up in online sale activity. Overall situation is much better, far better than our earlier 3 quarters of financial year 21-22. There is also a rub-off effect on the allied industries like textile machinery, and orders have begun. But I think the other area of concern has been the cost. So while steel costs on one hand are probably playing spoil sport, we are also likely to see other costs like fuel, which have been also going up, also creating some sort of hurdles in otherwise a narrowly growing industry. So I think 21-22 is a year of hybrid. Everything is going to be online and everything is going to be real. Everything is going to be export oriented and everything is going to be domestic. We have to step on 2 boats and balance this year as the vaccination continues to validate itself and people continue to gain or gather trust as this vaccination program unfolds and demand begins to return. I would like to now, on this occasion, we have brought out Indian Textile Journal's first ever annual issue, which is the 13th issue of the year. And this issue is special because it is carrying India's top textile companies as its cover story. For the first time, we have put together India's top textile companies, which is a mix of all the kinds of textile stakeholders into one basket and putting together a model, a financial model, which takes into account their financial details, and it then brings together those companies which are India's top textile companies. There are profiles on these top textile companies. There are articles by eminent people, experts, and I would advise you to quickly book your copy before it runs out, because this is going to be one main issue which everybody is going to refer to for the rest of the year to know which are India's top textile companies, whether it is domestic industry or whether international industry, they will all refer to this list. Our government is quite keen to develop textile sector as a champion sector, and host of incentives have been are in the pipeline, which is good for the industry. I think maybe our guest of honor will talk about them. Overall, the scenario is far better this year. Of course, the dark clouds have not gone away, but sunrise is around the corner. With that, I hand you over back to Rakesh, and we shall now unveil the Indian Textile Journal annual issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patude, for your excellent speech. And now, with no further delay, I would now call upon our guest of honor, Mr. Ajit B. Chauhan, Secretary and CEO of Textile Committee, Ministry of Textiles, Government of India, to address the audience. Before Mr. Chauhan shares his thought, let me take you through his profile briefly. An officer belonging to 1994 Civil Services Examination, Mr. Ajit Chauhan has a rich experience in policy design and implementation and has diverse experience in the fields of textiles, trade and commerce, health and family welfare, and heavy industries. Before joining Textiles Committee in January 2017, Mr. Chauhan worked as Director in Department of Commerce, Government of India, and was handling agriculture exports policy. He was instrumental in the policy-driven growth in the agriculture and allied exports from a mere rupees 53,566 crore in 2009-10 to 1,95,665 crore in 2013-14, registering more than 350% growth in just 4 years. I now request Mr. Ajit Chauhan to share his thoughts.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rao. Distinguished guests, captains of textile and apparel industry, good friend Mr. Padode, esteemed panelists, and distinguished participants. It's indeed a great pleasure for me to be here. Thank you very much, Indian Textile Journal, for having me here on your virtual business e-conference. Today, I believe you had a very engaging session on reinvigorating Indian textile industry to be a global hub. I also believe that you have had a very good discussion on whether India can lead in MMF and technical textiles. And there has been a very good presentation on opportunities for India in the global textile market. Once having discussed all these things, there's little that a person can really have to speak about the subject in the specifics. So I know a few of the panelists, very eminent people, have already spoken. So I would not take much of your time or bore you guys to death by giving very specifics. However, it's important to have the big picture ahead of us, as Mr. Rao had in the introduction of mine has spoken. We've seen the story how policies can determine, completely change the whole scenario. We have seen it very closely how good partnership with the industry, government and industry partnership, and proper policies. So the magic of working together between the industry and governments can really bring about great growth stories. So, but before that, I would like to talk about the Indian standing in the global textiles industry. We all know India is one of the earliest country having textile and apparel as an industry. Presence in the entire textile value chain has been our biggest strength, be it fiber, apparels, made-ups, etc. And we also have large pool of skilled manpower. This sector is one of the largest employment generating sectors, having 45 million people directly involved in the sector, and many more millions when you take the allied sectors. Globally, India today stands the second largest manufacturer of textile and apparel, and sixth largest exporter with a share of around 5% of the global trade. I'm really pained a little bit to say that we were number 2 not very long ago in terms of world in terms of our share of the world export. However, lately we have been seeing a little downside on the export side. Currently, as it stands, the Indian textile and export is worth around $35 billion in the year 2019-20, which also includes, of course, handicrafts. So about the overall, the global scenario, well, over a period of 2 decades, the the sector has, the TNA sector globally has seen good amount of growth from $360 billion in 2001 to $837 billion, and is currently around 4.3 to 4.4% of the global merchandise trade. Lately, even the global growth is stagnant in the last 5 years. Probably there hasn't been much growth, but overall the long-term trend is positive, which means that you have a good you have a good opportunity ahead to capture the market shares. But who's the leader? Undoubtedly, China is the #1 player, dominant player with 32% world share, followed by countries like Bangladesh with 4.7%, Germany also 4.7%, Vietnam 4.6%, India, Italy having 4.4%, and Turkey closely following at 3.3%. While China, if you map China's growth in the last 2 decades, China's share has grown up from 13.8% in 2001 to almost 32% in 2018. India too has grown, but India's textile export has grown from $10.6 billion in 2001 to $37.12 billion in 2018. And we have clocked a CAGR. Over this period, we've clocked a CAGR of 7%, which looks impressive in the prima facie. But if you see the last 4 or 5 years, it has really been not a very good story. We are losing out on our share in exports. We are losing out to countries like Bangladesh, Vietnam. And when we mapped the production of raw materials, we also find a downslide in the production in the last 5 years on the raw material side. However, India as a country has a big domestic market. I don't know how many of you are aware that as an organization, we do one of the most authentic market household survey on textiles and clothing, and our latest report will bring in some very startling facts and figures out. It is expected to come out very soon. So well, India is not, in a sense, India is not doing all too well in the recent past. There have been various reasons, some of the very fundamental reasons, which I'm sure everybody's aware, but I think having got this opportunity, I must talk about it. We are inhibited by our lack of scales in our production. We are a decentralized, fragmented, and SME-based setup. We lack competitiveness of products. There is very high level of manufacturing defect in our in our production setup. If you talk about RMG sector, that is the ready-made garments, according to some studies that we have come across, this defect is as high as 11% as compared to 3% in pre-sewing activities. This is we also are plagued by low productivity as compared to our peers like China, Vietnam, Bangladesh. The quality of raw materials and intermediaries is also intermediates is also something that is required to be worked upon. In terms of on the export market, there is over dependence on selected export markets. For instance, 64% of our exports are emerging out of US, EU, and Middle Eastern countries. That means any minor change or any bottlenecks in these countries can severely hamper our growth story. Same goes true for the product basket. Our product basket is very concentrated. There is lack of diversification. For instance, out of $37 billion exports that we did in 2018, 84 products, and mind you, I'm talking about 84 products at 8-digit level, 8-digit HS level, and that means very specific. 84 lines account for almost 68% of our exports, which is also a dangerous trend, because if God forbid there is a change in the trend, or there is a change in the demand for these lines, we could, our growth story and all the big things that we talk about, opportunities, and also about taking away the share of China, can go for in a very short period of time. Thus, if we have to reclaim our leadership position, let's say if we have to ambitiously be trying to get back our #2 position in the world, we need to overcome the challenges that we have, the traditional challenges that we have, and then we need to leverage on our strengths. We definitely have a lot of strengths. We must not lose sight of a lot of strengths. I was hearing, sorry, I couldn't be there for the entire time, but I was hearing about MMF, which is the latest MMF and technical textile, which is the latest talk of the town of the industry. I keep thinking that yes, this is definitely an area where we need to start, and we need to take leadership roles. But I also feel that we need to also be mindful of our past strengths, our historical strengths, and also try and leverage on them, make best use of technology, by whatever name you call it. The jingles that go around is Industry 4.0, 4.1 or 4.0, robotics. We must make use of, basically the short point is, we must make use of the best of the technology world over. We could use imported technology. We could manufacture our own technology. We could do research and get those technologies in the country under Make in India program. And most importantly, we must enhance our understanding of the international markets and their requirements. So I think what we need to do, we keep doing, is we try to sell what we produce. To that extent, now we've, the Textiles Committee has recently signed up an agreement with an MOU with a leading quality organization in Japan, in order to focus our attention towards the Japanese market, which is the third most important market. And our attempt, our endeavor in this MOU is to understand the Japanese market, and brand Indian products very well. The government, whatever role the government has, it has been playing in the past. We have seen some major interventions in the for the support of the industry, in terms of be it programs like ISDS or currently Samar, which is one of the biggest skilling programs aiming at skilling 10 lakh people in the TNA sector. And I believe one of the panelists was talking about the skilling needs. I believe as an RSA, we are open to all the ideas of the industry. We have developed almost 135 job roles for the industry, including 6 for technical textiles. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, as Rakshit ji was saying, that we are good even with manufacturing of the women's products. And I think in the technical textiles, we have also come out with one course which addresses the, I'm forgetting, sorry, the name of the course. We've done those courses also under the technical textiles. So we in the government has also been trying to address the technology issues through the scheme, the flagship scheme of the Ministry of Textiles called the TUFS, and its various variants which were in play since 1999, and which have been responsible, authoritatively I can say that it has been responsible for galvanizing an investment to the tune of almost $68 billion in the country. Very lately, as Mr. Padode has already spoken, the government has announced the PLI scheme. The National Mission on Technical Textile has also been announced, which are going to be the major growth drivers ahead in days to come. Then Mitra was also announced in this year's budget. So basically, I think now the government's avowed focus is also to beat the challenges brought out by lack of economies of scale. So with PLI, the competitiveness challenge will also be addressed. And with Mitra, the lack of economies of scale or defragmentation issues would be addressed. So government is doing whatever best it can to come to the aid and help of the industry and try and regain the hallowed positions that the government wants this industry to achieve. There are very ambitious targets that the Ministry of Textile has assumed. The textile policies in the offing, I can't often give you as a serious government functionary. I cannot reel out those figures in the public domain unless it is announced. But some serious thought is going on, and we are going to set a very ambitious target for ourselves, which should be achievable, given the kind of interventions which have been announced recently by the governments. That's so much that the government can do. The industry needs to buckle up. Industry needs to partner well with the governments in achieving these targets. I think it is possible. I think the PPE story somebody had referred to during the discussion is an excellent world case study as to how good partnership between the willing governments and the aspiring and very robust technical, very robust TNA industry can spun. So within short, and we lived through the story within two months' time. I'm very happy to announce that one new industry came up entirely from nowhere. The PPE body coverall industry, the interventions done by the government and the proactiveness shown by the industry, and the business opportunity that came about during the COVID pandemic situation has catapulted India into world number 2 position just in about less than 60 days time, which is I'm sure which is a great case study for all of us. Insofar as the Textiles Committee is concerned, I head this organization. I have been here for 4 years. I have always tried to understand the industry's requirements of quality. We work in the field of quality and export promotion. So I would like to assure the industry through this forum that TCE will always be available for the Indian industry, be it the conformity assessment needs. We have, I don't know how many of you are aware, but we have 19 state-of-art laboratories across the country. We do the entire inbound testing requirements of the country. Whatever is being brought into the country is tested in our laboratories. I have an ambitious plan to invest almost $3.5 billion worth of equipment in the next 18 months. The tenders have already started to be getting out. So conformity assessment needs of the industry can well be taken care of. We are also into standardization of process requirements of the industry. So any industry, can approach us for this kind of process standardization, which brings in competitiveness. We can provide quality assurance. We provide certifications under FTAs and PTAs. And, we are now lately engaged by the government in formulation of various technical standards. So technical standards is the latest weapon in the hands of the country to enhance its quality and also try to prevent dumping of substandard products into the country. So I think Dr. Rakshit was talking about the technical standards also. So we are up for that. As an organization, we do undertake a lot of studies. The recent being, we've done a very good study on how to promote growth of man-made fiber textile industry, and we've given a roadmap for its growth and also identified gaps and suggested measures to the government. And we'll be very happy to do any amount of workshops with the technical textile and MMF industry in letting you know our findings. The low-hanging fruit that we identified was that there is an opportunity of almost $7 billion short-term opportunity in the MMF sector, where we have competitive edge. We've run some indexes, export competitiveness index and other advanced statistical tools, and we've identified certain products and certain destinations where we don't need to reinvent anything. We just need to focus on them, and we can get almost $7 billion worth of exports in very short period of time. And I think that's about what I had to say to all of you. I'm very grateful to Indian ITJ's invite for and giving me this opportunity to speak to you through this virtual conference. So thank you very much for that. And once again, have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chauhan, for your kind words. And it was indeed a pleasure to have you on for this event. And I would really appreciate if the industry can take help of technical textile to grow their businesses, as Mr. Chauhan has already pointed out some of the opportunities that are available to them. With this, we come to an end of Indian Textile Journal's E-Business Conference 2021. We hope you all had a wonderful time. I would like to thank all our panelists, all our eminent speakers and guests for sharing their valuable thoughts. We would like to express our gratitude to our association partners, the Textile Association of India, Indian Technical Textile Association, and Textile Machinery Manufacturers Association of India. Finally, we would like to thank the wonderful audience for making this event a grand success. Stay safe and good night.